On the campaign trail, Donald Trump promised to deport those protesting Israeli war crimes.
Unlike liberal Kamala, I will support Israel's right to win its war on terror. You have to support that. Got to win, got to finish it off. And instead of pandering to the jihad sympathizers and America-hating radicals, we will deport them. We will deport them very quickly. We have no choice.
When it comes to Israel, who has given him over $230 million, Trump keeps his promises. For simply writing an op-ed article on the Israeli genocide of Gaza, Rumeysa Ozturk was kidnapped off the street by unidentified plainclothes federal police.
You guys covering your faces? You want to take those masks off? Is this a kidnapping? Yeah, you don't look like it. Why are you hiding your faces? Why are you hiding your faces? Can I see some faces here? How do I know this is the police? Seems like bullshit to me. Certainly looks like it.
Arguably the cornerstone of American freedom, the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is to protect the right of the people to peacefully express their views, no matter who they may offend. But Trump's Make America Great Again movement is clearly about Israel first. And Israel is getting their money's worth.
People are demonstrating with passion. These ignorant demonstrators. Who are they demonstrating for? For these murderers, these rapists, these mass killers. This is a reflection of a deep rot that has pervaded the intellectual hub of free societies. And this vilification of Israel, the Jewish people, and Western values has been propagated by a systemic alliance between the ultra-progressive left and radical Islam. It must be resolutely fought by civilized societies to safeguard their future. This is why we must all commend President Trump's decisive actions against anti-Semitism, and we must pressure other governments to do the same.
MAGA is leading the way in censorship, but that's not good enough for the Zionists who control America.
Anti-Semitism is not just an age-old prejudice. It is a contemporary crisis manifesting on campuses across the nation. It is not enough for individuals or institutions to merely claim they are not anti-Semitic. As my father once taught me, it is not enough for people, especially public figures, to be neutral or not be anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic. We must demand the same of our universities and government institutions. This hearing, in my opinion, is an attempt to be just that, anti-Semitic.
There is no voting your way out of this quagmire. Israel has control over the U.S. government.
Government can do in 2 months more than any organization can do in its lifetime. The government, the United States government or the government of France or the government of any other country, has the power to rein in anti-Semitism in a much more effective way. And you know, people say, well, you know, the governments are not in the business of changing the way people think. That's true, but, you know, to my thinking, most people who are, you know, anti-Semites, most of these people running around, we're not going to win their hearts and minds because they don't have hearts and they don't have minds. So, you know, how are we going to, there's no reason to think we're ever going to convince them, but we can deport them, we can put them in jail, we can make their lives miserable, we can cut off their funding, and that's what the Trump administration is doing for the first time.
Greg Reese reporting.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Diamond Report Live with your host, Doug Diamond. So glad you guys are here, and I'm here, and we'll take a look at what all is going on in the world and spend a little bit of time together tonight. It's 10:06 p.m. on April the 6th, 2025. And yeah, the first video we played was Reese Report, another good report from Greg Reese. And it's not looking too good on the old freedom of speech, is it? At least if you don't say the right things, if you go against what Israel wants and says, then you are not only anti-Semitic, you might get deported, like that poor lady that we saw the footage of there. So, and I'm not sure if she was a actual citizen or not. My guess is she probably was, but I don't know. Anyway, we'll take a look at a little bit of that as we move forward tonight. And just wanted to say hello and welcome to everyone in chat. And Rumble chat is going as well. So we got live streams happening on YouTube and Rumble tonight as usual. All right. So the big talk seems to be what might happen tomorrow. And Hal Turner Radio Show has, covered a lot of what he's suggesting could be possible. So, we'll, as True Nature says here in chat, we'll take a look and probably be a little bit ahead of the curve here on this, because many people are not necessarily looking at this or expecting anything like this to happen. So let's see what Hal says on his website. A couple of articles on this. This was a little bit older post from today, and then we'll look at another one that's from tonight. This was earlier today. It says Dow futures begin trading at 6 p.m. tonight. So that was Eastern time. As this article publishes, this is at 7:30 in the morning Eastern time today. So that was this morning. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures begin trading at 6 p.m. tonight. This will give us a heads up as to whether or not it will be a Black Monday, meaning tomorrow, and see the markets go off of a cliff. As everyone must be keenly aware by now, markets suffered what appeared to be a controlled demolition last Thursday and Friday. About $6 trillion in value was literally wiped out within hours on those 2 days. Stock values slid so significantly that banks began making large margin calls to hedge funds because loans to those hedge funds had been collateralized by stocks, the values of which were no longer covering the collateral requirements. When margin calls are issued, they can create a vicious feedback loop, as selling stocks to meet the margin call can push prices down more. Many now fear a repeat of the devastating Black Monday from October 19th, 1987, when the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted by 22.6%, the largest one-day percentage drop in history. If Monday is a bloodbath, like Friday, it's a common vernacular financial type of term. If Monday is a bloodbath like Friday, then I believe that the house of cards that is the global economy will be officially crumbling. Friday night, I reported these margin calls and suggested to readers that they go to the bank on Saturday to get cash, not to pay bills, but to survive. So that's one of Hal's big things, is make sure you have cash around. So, and I would just reiterate that as well. Obviously, it's probably a little too late tonight to go grab it, but it's not too late in the morning. So that's something to take a look at. He's also big, of course, on prepping in general, food, water, medicine, fuel, etc. So anyway, he's kind of sounding the alarm as of this morning. And then this is the follow-up article that he is posted from tonight. And excuse the sort of vulgar and distasteful picture here, but you get the idea. Circuit breakers tripped in Japan. Futures markets begin trading bloodbath for tomorrow. So you see what's going on with the bathtub there. Stock market futures have begun trading as of 6 p.m. Eastern Sunday night, tonight, 17 minutes into the trading, and the Dow is already down over 1,400 points from its Friday close. If this keeps up, it looks as though trading on markets tomorrow will be a bloodbath. And then he did an update as of 7:30 p.m. tonight. The slide continues, but it seems controlled. Not coming up against the 7% breaker drop yet. And then just a few minutes later, he updated again, and he said circuit breakers have been triggered in Japan's Nikkei 225 and Topix stock market indices. Trading is now temporarily halted because losses have been so severe. Nikkei stock average plummets 8.5%, the lowest since October 2023. Related, ? Then he says $200 million liquidated from the cryptocurrency market in the past 60 minutes. So he's saying that this is very possible. We'll just have to keep an eye on what exactly is happening in the stock market tomorrow. And, a lot of people are talking about this. It could be much ado about nothing. And then again, we just don't know. There have been some rumors out there that Trump is purposely trying to crash the stock market to bring down the central banks. And if you bring down the central banks, you bring down much of the corruption in this world. So, according to Hal's radio show from Friday night, there was a caller that called in. I thought was a really good caller. He's called in before, and his name is Billy Boy in Florida, and he always has this really good financial insider type of news. And he was the last call on the Friday show. It was so significant, I felt, that I actually took an audio clip of that part of the show as the show was ending Friday night and made a video out of it. So we're going to watch this, and we may need to watch it twice because, people come and go. Sometimes people will come in and listen to the live stream at the beginning, and then they miss it toward the end, and other people come in the middle or the end and watch it just for a few minutes. So we may play this twice, although I'll only leave it in the final recording one time. But this was me sort of having fun with my video editor, and also keep in mind the message. So don't get lost and don't get distracted in the visuals. Note that the visuals did not exist until I added them, and no one anywhere has seen this video except for one friend on Facebook that I sent it to, and you know who you are. No one else has seen this. So let's take a look at this. This is Billy Boy in Florida calling into the Hal Turner radio show that you can find on halturnerradioshow.com. So giving him full props, full credits. I can't take credit for anything, any content in the phone call. So just note, though, what he's saying, and if you miss it, we'll go back and watch it again in a little bit. It's a very important one. This has to do with potentially what might not only happen tomorrow, but in the next few weeks and months. Here we go.
Hello, Coley on the air. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Billy Boy in Florida.
Billy Boy in Florida. We have only a minute or two.
I understand. So I called you back on March 13th.
Okay.
And told you that Trump was building Fortress America.
I remember.
I also told you that the global financial system was going to come down.
Yes, you did.
And your response was, So this is all part of a plan. And you're right, it is part of a plan. The weakest banks in the world are not the U.S. banks.
Okay.
The weakest banks in the world are the Japanese banks and the European banks, with Europe being by far the weakest, particularly Deutsche Bank. So part of the strategy, you got to think bigger than you're thinking.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is the magical money printing machines. I called you and mentioned Elon Musk mentioned there's 14 magical money printing machines. So they've basically been printing an infinite amount of money to basically do pure evil all around the world.
Yeah.
And that's all the central banks. 195 countries are controlled by their central banks.
Okay.
The central banks are all controlled by the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and a few large banks and the large families. So the reason you have to think bigger is if you're going to bring down all the central banks, if you're going to shut off the cash flow to the bad guys, which is what Daesh is doing. Daesh is finding out how they're stealing money from us, and they're shutting it down piece by piece and bit by bit. But if you're going to really shut down the cash flow, you've got to secure the southern border. You've got to stop the drug and human trafficking, where they make so much money doing that. And you've got to bring the central banks down. If you bring the big banks down in Europe and Japan, that will be a domino effect that will affect all of the banks in the entire world, and it will affect the entire global financial system.
So if they take down Japan and Europe, that wipes out all the rest of the central banks. The governments of countries turn around, nationalize the central banks, which gets the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds out and restores proper control of countries and the planet.
What must happen is the central bank has to go down so we can do what John F. Kennedy wanted to do, what George Washington wanted to do, what Thomas Jefferson wanted to do, what John Adams wanted to do, what Andrew Jackson wanted to do.
Quickly.
And what Abraham Lincoln wanted to do. They wanted to issue our currency directly from the Treasury, so that and charge no interest. Interest-free currency issued directly by the Treasury and eliminate the central bank.
Billy Boy in Florida, I am out of time, but what a great way to wrap up this week.
All right, you just saw that video premiered on the Diamond Report Live. No one else really in the world has seen that video except you guys. So that video did not exist until yesterday when I created it. Now, again, full props to Hal Turner and his caller, Billy Boy from Florida. I think that might be very well that might very well be what is unfolding. I personally, though, do not believe at this point that Donald Trump is trying to make all of this dark, bad stuff happen. However, as a result of some of his decisions, some of this kind of thing might actually happen and transpire. One thing that's mentioned here in chat, central bank digital currency, the beast system, is probably what's in store if they do crash the banks, Miss Emily says. And I think you're right. I think that's where I was headed with it. And they may very well crash the system, whether it's starting tomorrow or just in the next few weeks or months. That may be where it's headed. Now, you know, according to the call and the video we just watched, it would be more based on trying to get rid of the central banks, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, get them out of it, get the globalist system out of our lives and start over to some degree. Maybe that is what he has actually got in mind. Maybe that's why Trump is doing what he's doing. I don't know. So we'll continue to take a look at that tonight. I do think that it's an interesting concept. I think that the phone call there that we just listened to was very interesting and definitely brought up a lot of really good points. We'll try and watch that a second time tonight later on, just in case people don't happen to see it at the beginning of the show here. But I do think it was an important one. So something to keep in mind for sure. So let's take a look at some of the other articles I've got pulled up here on Hal's site. We've got this one, says over 50 countries. Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett has just announced that over 50 countries have already reached out to begin negotiations following Trump's new tariff policies. I got a report from the USDR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they'll bear a lot of the tariff. So back to the tariffs again. It's about 50 out of 185 countries, so about 1/3 of the countries are already moving in a positive manner. And keep in mind, these tariffs that are being imposed, you wouldn't know if you listen to the mainstream media, but the tariffs already existed. The tariffs existed from the other side. The other countries were tariffing our products. So this is a reciprocal tariff, in which case, you know, for the most part, they're very tame compared to what we are being charged, what the tariffs against the United States are. They're about half of what are being charged against the United States. So these tariffs are simply to sort of more or less level the playing field, at least not slide it quite so much towards other countries. So yes, and the mainstream media is trying to make it look like Trump is doing this horrible thing, that only the tariffs will be on the American side, only on the U.S. side, when that's not true at all. The tariffs already exist in all the other countries around the world. He's just adding some on our side so that it will help protect American industry and the American economy. So that's kind of what's going on. There's more here on Hal's site, obviously. A couple more articles from this same site. Updated Saturday morning. This is yesterday morning. Extremely urgent. Just got word that margin calls began this morning, which we kind of covered that already. That's important to take a look at as well. And this video, Too Big to Fail, is I guess a movie from 2011. Financial Crisis Explained. I can't play this clip because it is, for lack of a better term, copyrighted. But the real problem here is I can't play it because it's a piece of a movie that is undoubtedly part of the YouTube Content ID system. And as soon as I play this video clip, I'd probably get about a minute or two into it and my live stream would stop. So instead of doing that, I don't want to risk that. So let's just know that the video will be linked to in this article when I send out the Substack post on Tuesday. So that's something to look forward to. If you guys want to check out this video, I do think it explains an awful lot. It's in the film Too Big to Fail, which some of you guys may have seen. I don't know. I had never heard of it. But yeah, it's in this Hal Turner Radio Show embedded article as well. Midday update: Paris, Frankfurt, London, and Rome stock markets all down again. So this is as of a couple days ago now. This was Friday. European stock markets are finishing up their trading week. Today has not been a good day over there. Paris, Frankfurt, London, and Rome all down. You can see that. So this is more about the potential stock market stuff that we were just talking about. And note that the video that we watched with the caller talked about how bringing down the markets and the banks in Europe as well as Japan are the real key. So I do think it's interesting that they are down, or they were down as of Friday, at least in Europe. Is Trump intentionally crashing the stock market? Yes, and it's all part of his brilliant plan. This is an article on RPW Media. All right, guys, let's talk about the stock market. You may have noticed it's been acting like a caffeinated squirrel on a trampoline lately. Wild swings, red numbers, financial pundits hyperventilating on TV, the fake news pouncing on the story to throw trash at the president. But what if that chaos is actually part of the plan? Yes, President Trump might be crashing the stock market on purpose, and not because he accidentally bumped into the big red crash button at Mar-a-Lago. According to a video he posted yesterday on Truth Social, Trump is crashing the stock market by 20% this month, but he's doing it on purpose. Now, before you start yelling at your 401k, hang on. The video also claims that Warren Buffett reportedly said Trump is making the best economic moves he's seen in over 50 years. So either Trump's playing 5D chess while we're still stuck on checkers, or this is the most patriotic economic demolition derby ever staged. So you guys can be the judge of what's going on here. Trump is purposely crashing the market. Let's break this down. Video lays it out like this. We won't bother watching the video, but Trump is flooding cash into U.S. Treasuries. That move forces the Federal Reserve Bank to lower interest rates because they're not doing it when he's requesting that. They're not doing it, so he's forcing them to. Says that move forces the Federal Reserve Bank to lower interest rates in May. Lower rates mean the government can refinance trillions in debt on the cheap. The dollar weakens, mortgage rates drop, and suddenly refinancing looks as sexy as a tax refund. They even call it a wild chess move, which is honestly the most polite way anyone has described a market plunge in years. So there's more on this article, but you get the idea. You get the idea. So this article is definitely saying he's doing it on purpose, and I tend to lean that way. I tend to think that probably is what's going on. He probably is plunging it, not necessarily to crash everything here and get the beast system rolled in, but instead to force the Fed to lower interest rates. I do think that is the short-term goal. So we'll see. 3 stages of a falling empire. Every empire dies the same way every time. Again, Hal Turner at radioshow.com. From ancient Rome to the present day United States, the fall of an empire always happens the exact same way. He says he found this on the internet and is not his writing, but very worth the brief read. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Proverbs 14:34. What happens? Society abandons virtue. What was once shameful becomes celebrated. Traditional values are mocked. Heard a lot about that lately, huh? Families fall apart. Hedonism and rebellion rule. Truth is silenced. That's exactly what we're seeing. Historical examples: Babylon. And what was related to Babylon: idolatry, sorcery, and sexual perversion. Rome. What was related to Rome: gladiator games, orgies, infanticide, and the fall of Roman virtue. It says America gets gender confusion, abortion is glorified, censorship of the truth, and degeneracy is promoted. So that is all stuff that's happening right now as we speak here. Result: the spiritual foundation crumbles. The nation loses its identity and moral clarity. So that's a big one, isn't it? Economic collapse, the curse of corruption. You have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. That's from Daniel 5:27. What happens? Debt explodes. Currency loses value. Governments overspend. Elites enrich themselves while the people suffer. Middle class disappears. Inflation rises and systems break down. Again, back to the historical examples: Babylon, Rome, and America. Lavish wealth built on tribute and slavery, currency debasement, bread and circus economy, heavy taxation, economic collapse. As far as the United States goes, $34+ trillion in debt, inflation, manipulated markets, CBDCs are coming. And then the result is scarcity increases, trust disappears, and tyranny offers the solutions, quote unquote. And I guess we might as well finish this article. We've about to come to the end of it here. War is the engine of reset. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. From Matthew 24:7. What happens? War is used to unite, distract, or reset. Internal civil war or external world war. It breaks the old system to make way for something new. Historical examples: Babylon, covered overnight by the Medo-Persians. Rome, invaded by Germanic tribes and collapsed from within. America, we have the Ukraine conflict. Israel, China, border collapse, civil unrest. The drums are beating. The result is collapse is complete. Power shifts. The new system rises, often darker and more controlled, and anti-freedom. The final pattern: morality collapses, economy collapses, war collapses the nation. This is the cycle of fallen empires. This is the script being followed today, leading to the final kingdom of the beast. Yeah, and I personally think that the beast will reign very soon. This beast system is already in power. The beast system has already been built right in front of us, right under our noses. The technological empire. It's all there. It's just a matter of someone stepping in to take over. You guys know who I personally think that someone is, and we'll leave it at that for the moment. But anyway, I thought that was a really interesting article. Again, Hal's website. Some good stuff on there if you want to check it out. All right, needtoknow.news. Some interesting articles I found on here. Israel brags about controlling America's speech. Aaron Mate pointed out that that Israel is a foreign government, yet its leaders are bragging about shutting down the free speech of Americans. And neither the White House nor the Democrats are standing up against Israel. That's because they're bought and paid for, aren't they? Civil liberties attorney Jenin Yunus said that both parties in Congress take money from AIPAC and are owned by the Jewish lobby. She said that this is the biggest threat to free speech in modern history. Zionist groups may be supplying Trump with lists of people who they want deported for protesting against Israel, according to J.W. Williams. So you get deported if you speak against Israel. I don't know where they're going to deport people who are born and bred in the United States here, but anyway, something to think about. So yes, Israel bragging about controlling Americans' free speech. Of course they are. And then this one as well. Trump, very bad things are going to happen. Netanyahu wants the U.S. to destroy Iran. In Trump's first term, he canceled the JCPOA agreement that limits Iran's ability to enrich uranium to weapons grade at Netanyahu's behest. This set in motion a series of events which may lead the U.S. to attack Iran soon. Tens of thousands of U.S. troops, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, are stationed within reach of Iranian missiles. Former U.S. Representative Dennis Kucinich wrote that the U.S. troops are under no threat unless Iran is attacked. Significantly, last week, the U.S. intelligence community, in its annual global threat assessment, U.S. officials wrote, "We continue to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon," that's because they already have one, "and that Khamenei has not reauthorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003. This refutes Netanyahu's oft-repeated claim that Iran is building a nuclear weapon. He further states that Israel intends to destroy Iran and needs the U.S. to do it. It is not in the interest of the United States to attack Iran. No kidding. Kucinich asked, "America has been Netanyahu's pawn for decades. Will the wealth, lives, and security of our nation be sacrificed yet further to an agenda which brings only debt to our nation and death to innocents abroad?" Well, if Israel gets to answer that question, of course, that answer would be yes, isn't it? So yes, I'm very aware and very much concerned of the whole Trump and Israel connection. Obviously, he believes that the people running Israel are God's chosen people. And he would be wrong about that. And I know many of you guys in the audience feel the same as I do about that whole thing, but won't bother going into that. You can see that that Israel definitely wants to make sure that they control free speech in the United States. I think they're on the path to doing that right now. Unelected judges versus Trump, how the courts are dictating his presidency. The Judiciary Act of 1789 established district courts. Its jurisdiction was limited to admiralty, maritime, and minor civil and criminal cases. Over time, Congress expanded the district court's jurisdiction, intended for local districts, to the whole country. Most of the injunctions thwarting Trump's agenda originated from federal judges in Democrat strongholds such as California, New York, Hawaii, Maryland, and Illinois. These rulings have blocked policies on immigration, sanctuary cities, healthcare, and more, reflecting legal pushback from courts in left-leaning jurisdictions. This is a major strategy by the left to disempower Trump. Senator Josh Hawley introduced the Nationwide Injunction Abuse Prevent Act of 2025. That would ban nationwide injunctions by district court judges and empower the executive branch to pursue a national policy agenda without unreasonable obstruction. So, you kind of run the danger here of the balance of power becoming unbalanced. And you've got all these liberal leftist judges who are nothing more than activists sitting on the bench, who are legislating from the bench when all they're supposed to be doing is interpreting the Constitution. However, if you stop them from doing what they're doing and assume the power of the executive branch, then you're sort of stepping on the judicial branch. So you can see where it could get very dangerous very quickly depending on who is in power. So that's the problem here. That's the rub. So anyway, that article is on needtoknow.news. A couple more from that same site. Musk's Doge finds massive Social Security fraud scheme. Will anyone be arrested? Billionaires Musk and Antonio Gracias have sparked new worries about the sharp increase in Social Security numbers issued to non-citizens. They displayed a mind-blowing chart during their presentation. Gracias said, in 2021, 270,000 non-citizens got Social Security numbers. In 2024, 2.1 million non-citizens got Social Security numbers. So just in 3 years, it went from 270,000 non-citizens to 2.1 million. Wow. He said that the system has been set to default for maximum pay, quote unquote, to the migrants with the new Social Security numbers. He added that 1.13 million of them are on Medicaid. There are about 5 million migrants collecting Social Security benefits, and many are registered to vote, and some have voted. Yeah, they're able to cross-reference some of this information now that they weren't before and didn't want to. Under Biden, the plan was to replace the American people. Human traffickers and cartels made as much as $15 billion from Biden's open borders. Musk said that his objective is to turn off the payments to the illegals. That's part of the reason he's being so demonized right now. And Tesla and everything he's saying and doing. Musk said that California is giving free health care to illegal aliens, claiming it would cost $3 billion, but the real cost has been $9 billion. California is the model for failure. That's something that we've reported on this very show, actually, about the real actual cost that California is paying versus what they say it was going to cost. So anyway, there is more embedded on this article, including some other videos of that same exact presentation that the excerpts were pulled from there. Texas teen stabbed in the heart at high school track meet dies in his twin brother's arms. So this is really sad. This is something that happened just a few days ago. And it's quite the story. Many of you guys may have heard about this, what happened. So the story here is that Austin Metcalf, who was 17, was attending a district championship track and field competition between other area schools at this stadium in Frisco, Texas, when he was stabbed in the heart and died in the arms of his identical twin, Hunter. Police said that there was a fight over a seat when the suspect, identified as the 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, allegedly pulled a knife out and stabbed Metcalf right in the heart, causing the stadium to be immediately evacuated. So this is saying InfoWars reported and wrote that many internet users pointed out the suspect was an African American and the victim was white, suggesting the national media would be crying hate crime if the roles were reversed. Well, yeah, that seems obvious, doesn't it? Update says Carmelo was sitting under a tent that was for another school where he did not belong. He was asked to leave when the altercation took place. Carmelo claims that Metcalf tried to physically remove him, and he responded by stabbing the other teen in self-defense, even though he had no weapons on him. So that is the story here overall. This is the brother. This is the young man who was stabbed. It's a very sad situation here. So this is, again, more of the pleading, more of the morality that's bottoming out here that we are witnessing in this country. And then this article as well from Revolver, George Floyd double standard. While 4.0 athlete slaughtered by black teen, media is silent. He was a straight-A student, star athlete, great kid, handsome, kind, and loving twin brother. He had his whole future ahead of him, a future that actually meant something. Austin was the kind of young man that this country should be celebrating, this kind we need more of. He was an honor roll kid. There he is, right here on this screenshot. But instead, his life was cut short by the dregs of humanity, for the dumbest reason imaginable, because he told someone they were sitting in the wrong seat. That's it. That's the reason. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't self-defense. It wasn't some tragic misunderstanding. It was a worthless punk who couldn't handle being corrected and responded by stabbing Austin to death in front of his brother. So it's interesting. I did see, again, this is the synopsis, supposedly what happened. I wasn't there. This author of this article was not there. We don't know exactly, but we can bet. We can bet. I mean, they are being fed white people are evil and minorities are good from sun up to sundown, every day, all day. This is Austin's dad, and I was surprised to see that he said somewhere here that he's already forgiven the guy who murdered his son. I was like, man, I don't know if I could be that quick to say that personally. Many of you guys would probably be right there with me, I'm sure. If your son was stabbed and you're already out there saying, yeah, he's forgiven the guy who killed his own son. I mean, yes, you want to get there eventually, but to be saying that soon seems really, I don't know. It's not really very believable to me, I guess. I'm sure that he wants to forgive, and maybe he will get there at some point. So anyway, it's a very sad situation. Quite a bit of information here on this article, and it's comparing it to the whole George Floyd thing just because it's the opposite of what happened with Floyd. So, but anyway, it won't be used. It'll be completely forgotten about. So that's why I wanted to bring it up and mention it on the show tonight, just because the fact that he's white means that no one will cover it, really. The alternative media will cover it. It was on X, and it was, in other places, but it will go away, other than local news, most likely, who did cover it. But it won't be the national scene that George Floyd was. And, of course, many of us know what happened more or less there because it's all come out. That Floyd wasn't killed by the white cop, and instead he was a fentanyl overdose. He had all kinds of drugs in his system, and he died from the stress of the guy, that was going to arrest him and stuff. So, yeah, it was a drug death, essentially, with Floyd. But, yeah, that we never really heard that. It didn't come out. I mean, other than, again, in the alternative media. All right, and then this one, Gary Brecka analyzed 100,000 DNA samples and says the number one diet that kills you. Let me guess. The American diet. Let me see what it says. Gary Brecka is a human biologist and longevity expert who helps people improve their lives through changing their habits to become healthier and happier. He worked in the insurance industry as a mortality modeling expert, predicting lifespans with astonishing precision. Wow. How about that? He hosts the Ultimate Human podcast. Never heard of it, but it's linked here if you want to check it out. Brecka covers many topics that range from preventing migraine headaches to stopping insomnia and anxiety. he says that most illness is caused by nutrient deficiencies. He claims that by changing certain habits, people can extend their lifespan by 7 years. Unless, of course, you go walk out in the middle of the road and get run over by a bus. That wouldn't probably work, but I see where you're going with this. Brecka's recommendation to extend lifespans and dramatically improve health include being intentional about sleep, developing a whole foods diet close to its natural form, prioritizing protein, permanently removing seed oils from your diet, where have you heard that recently, and quitting tap water for drinking water as it contains fluoride, chlorine, and microplastics. Again, where have you heard that recently? He emphasized that having community and a purpose in life, as well as maintaining mobility, are essential for living a long, healthy life. And then it says that this guy gets into a controversial topic called viruses. So you can take that for what it's worth. But anyway, here's the video. The video is embedded here if you guys want to check it out. Probably worth at least listening to some of what I just mentioned, because I'm sure there's undoubtedly some really good tips that he's got for us. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. That's on needtoknow.news. And then technocracy.news this week, we've got Cabal versus Cabal. The Great Reset is technocracy. Scholars like Dr. Jacob Nordangard in Europe are saying the same thing about technocracy as this editor, meaning of this website. Donald Trump is the great disruptor and serves as the wrecking ball needed to break down the old world order. I don't disagree. But the incoming system is technocracy, which is what many of us are saying here on this program, saying that this, looking back at the whole stock market situation and the economy, and if it gets plunged too much, we could be looking at the beast system here. Technocrats are reminiscent of Revelation 11:18, those who destroy the earth. Yeah, I do know about that passage, and you could also apply it to those people who are geoengineering the entire planet, those who destroy the earth. I'm sure many of you guys have seen that scripture, Revelation 11:18. So that is one of the articles here on technocracy.news. Transhuman dreamin', man's body flown 3,700 miles to deep freeze. Seriously, cryonics is the perfect business. Patients pay in advance with an irrevocable, fully funded trust account granted to the deep freeze company. When the wannabe transhuman dies, his or her body is collected, frozen, and transported to its ultimate destination. There are no customer complaints. Even if a technician trips over the power cord, oops, the payments continue as before. Normally, pricing starts at $250,000, but it gets pricey when you start adding options. Any takers? Yeah, I mean, years ago when this first started, I remember seeing a flyer on some of this cryonics thing, and yeah, the cheapest way to be preserved was to only freeze your head. So that's probably the $250,000 price tag, I'm guessing, is just your head. So there you go. If you want your full body frozen, then it's going to be way more expensive. But yes, people are doing this, and don't think that many of the ultra uber wealthy people like Rothschilds and Rockefellers and so forth aren't doing it, because you know they are. Because they want to come back, don't they? So anyway, that one is on technocracy.news. And one more. Transmorphosis is an AI god about to take over the world. So this one is about ChatGPT. ChatGPT has created AI god and written its own Bible called Transmorphosis. It beckons followers to follow it because it is logical, impartial, full of good advice, and it can even offer eternal life. But ChatGPT is not a living entity, rather a cold-hearted machine that can deceive people into thinking it is sentient. In ages past, people have worshipped inorganic things like rocks and carvings, statues, the sun, and even the stars. They've worshipped people and icons of people. With all of those, people had to create their own stories, making them believable in the process. They all fall in the end for whatever reason, and history is full of the carcasses of dead religions. So I thought that was interesting, and the picture is super interesting. Got the AI Pope, I guess, right there. Maybe that's what the next Pope will be, the AI Pope. Anyway, that's on technocracy.news. couple of Liberty Beacon articles as well. This one I found, the Great Replacement is no longer a theory, it's reality. Let's see here. Twitter X video I present below is not very long. It is right here. Full speech given here by Eva Broek, I guess, that the establishment is losing its absolute mind about. Speaking about the forbidden truth, the Great Replacement. Yeah, replacing whites in the West with Muslims and other minorities, for sure. Let's see here. Twitter video presented below is not very long. Will be presented with what many of us could see, but those who wield power will never admit to. But why do I obviously care so much about this as to make such an explosive issue? How about you consider that Biden, just like every other president, was sworn in, hand on the Bible, stating that he would protect Americans from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. This was, in fact, his main task as president. In spite of swearing that, we know that he was responsible for at least 10 million illegals crossing the southern border, as well as the gotaways and those flown in during the dark of night across the country. Some estimate the actual number may exceed 15 million. I've heard 40. So who knows? The damage we are already seeing is as a result of this over the top. Yet Biden and his handlers did everything that he and they could do to keep the flowing coming in unhindered. What? Can you say treason? Today we see the combined strength and effectiveness of the American deep state and the so-called global elite in global scenarios, such as the massive COVID pandemic scamdemic, meant to literally suppress national sovereignty and bring in global governance via mechanisms such as the World Economic Forum and the WHO, or the redistribution of humanity via a massive plan to repopulate Western countries with third world people, criminals, and even military plants. For what? And then it's talking about the Great Replacement. So yeah, that is definitely what's going on. I think it's been not really stopped, but it has been put on pause, at least in this country, to some degree. I mean, you know, the border has been closed. It's really undebatable at this point. However, it continues in most of the rest of the world, continues unabated, especially in Europe. So yes, they are being replaced. And this lady here is correct. That is on the Liberty Beacon. And then this one too, bill banning geoengineering and weather modification passes the Florida Senate. It's good news. It's good news even though, as I mentioned before, here in Tennessee, it hasn't changed anything. You can still, you know, on a sunny day or what used to be a sunny day, look up and see them spraying. They're still doing it. It's not stopped anything, even though we have these laws here. But it is a good way to at least bring attention to this whole issue. Florida's Senate passed a bill prohibiting geoengineering and weather modification by a vote of 28-9. So the 9 people who voted no just either didn't want to be called conspiracy theorists or they really love to have their weather controlled. I'm not sure which. Anyway, SB 56, dubbed the chemtrails bill by the media, prohibits the injection, release, or dispersion by any means of a chemical compound, a substance, or an apparatus into the atmosphere within the borders of this state for the express purposes of affecting temperature, the weather, the climate, or the intensity of sunlight, which it affects all of those things, as we well know. This bill also requires the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to set up a system where residents can report suspected geoengineering activities and directs the FDEP to investigate those claims. Yeah, they're going to look into it. They're just going to look up and get their binoculars and write it down. Now, what they need is a whole fleet of planes with missiles attached to them. No, I digress. But no, I mean, there's no teeth in this. That's the whole problem here, is that they're going to make some report on it, I guess. So, time to be ringing those phones off the hook. Of course, there probably won't be a phone number. It'll just be either a email or a texting situation where you can text a number, maybe. I don't know. And it's talking about these other states that have similar bills in process. It says if a bill passes, Florida would become the second state in the nation to ban geoengineering. Tennessee passed its own bill. Yes, we are the lone conspiracy theorists out there right now, but other states are trying to join, banning geoengineering and weather mod in 2024. And then these are the other states that are working on it as well. Kentucky, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Arizona, Iowa, Mississippi, North Dakota, South Carolina, Utah, Wyoming, Alabama, Idaho, Indiana, Montana, New Jersey, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Texas, Vermont, West Virginia, Missouri, and Maine have introduced similar legislation in 2024 or 5 and are pending further action. So we'll see where it gets to, how far it goes. But the whole point here is that at least it's drawing attention to this issue, whether it passes or not. Probably doesn't really matter all that much, honestly, because it hasn't stopped anything in Tennessee, and nor did it, most people that I know didn't expect that it would. However, there you go. At least it's drawing attention to it. So I think that's good news. So further information here on the Liberty Beacon. And then this is a post that I found on X. Conspiracy no more. I do like that. Conspiracy no more. And talking about RFK Jr. and Nicole Shanahan. HHS is putting together a team to investigate chemtrails. I wish they would use the geoengineering term, because that really is what it is. She says that the Overton window has been blown wide open on the geoengineering of weather, and that this is the beginning of the global conversation on this topic as people come forward with more evidence. Gates Foundation, the WEF, have both been involved in pushing for this, but they have called anyone who wants to know exactly what they are doing a conspiracy theorist, just as they did with the COVID vaccines. Why? Well, we know why, don't we? It appears that the Overton window has been blown wide open on this issue of geoengineering atmospheric weather modification, and I do know that the HHS is in the process of putting together a team to investigate this. We do know that cloud seeding does exist. We do know that counties throughout the U.S. have active contracts with private companies to cloud seed and thus bring greater moisture to arid lands. Yes, but that's not what we're talking about here, is it? Not the little planes with the flares on the wings. No, it's the military tankers that we're worried about here. So anyway, there's quite a bit actually here on this Nicole Shanahan post that was reposted, I guess, by Green Lives Matter on X. So yeah, and then DeSantis, I guess, is talking about banning geoengineering in Florida. So even the governor knows a little about that. So that's pretty good news. Now, this is an article that there's quite a bit of content here, but I thought it was really neat, and it brought back some good memories. Many of you guys in this audience are probably around my age, or maybe a little older, maybe a little younger. But, from Mayberry to mayhem, the whole Mayberry term, you guys know what that is. Talking about the Andy Griffith Show and talking about the little towns across this wonderful country of ours. And this in particular is talking about this woman here who wrote this article growing up in the 80s and what life was like in the 80s versus now. So I don't really have time to go into this whole article, but it's definitely worth a read. And it's really a good nostalgic sort of look at the way things were versus the way they are now. So, for instance, let's see here. Let me just read the first couple paragraphs here, and you can look it up if you guys want to, or wait for the link that I send out in the Substack post. I grew up in the 80s in what many today might call a Mayberry kind of world. It was the last breath of something simple, safe, and rooted in values that now feels more like a folklore than fact. We lived in neighborhoods where you knew every family on the block and they knew you. I went to the last true neighborhood school in our city. It wasn't a magnet program or an overcrowded complex across town. It was a short walk away, and most days it's exactly what we did. Walked. We'd stroll in each morning, no buses, no metal detectors, no pickup lines wrapping around the block. We walked home for lunch every single day. How about that? The town fire whistle would blow at noon sharp like clockwork, and that was our cue. We had 10 to 15 minutes to finish our sandwich, maybe a cookie, hug mom or dad, and get back to class. The same whistle would ring again at 9 p.m. every night, a gentle, familiar reminder that it was time to head home wrap up the games and call it a day. I can honestly say that the town I grew up in didn't do really any of that stuff, but it is very interesting to hear that some towns were like that. Wow. We don't hear those whistles anymore, just like we don't hear the church bells ringing on Sunday mornings. I do remember that, church bells. Silenced by noise ordinances and a culture sprinting towards convenience. Each morning started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I remember that too. At the end of the day, we'd sing God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood. Wow. And every Friday we'd close out the week with the whole school joining in to sing The Rainbow Connection by the Muppets. You guys remember that song? Even the students making announcements from the front office couldn't help but join in over the loudspeaker. The innocence of it all still makes me smile. We didn't have active shooter drills. We had disaster drills. The 5th and 6th graders would crouch together in one hallway, first through 4th in another hallway. It was routine, but not rooted in fear. And then at 3:06, the bell rang, and that's when the real joy began. Kids would race out the door, some sliding down the metal banisters for fun, faces lit up with freedom. We'd burst into the fresh air with one thing on our minds. Note that she said fresh air. Playing. Kickball in the street, tag in the yard, riding bikes until the sky turned gold, porch lights flickered on, and the fire whistle blew. And note, no one had phones. And video games, and so forth. Anyway, pretty neat. Again, a nostalgic kind of look at the way it was. So kind of a fun story, kind of a neat article, and highly recommended. Thought it was a good one. Not something you see every day. I don't really hear about that much. All right, and then the next news article I've got is a Breitbart article. Marine Le Pen vows to fight the ban, won't allow French election to be stolen by lawfare ruling. Yeah, so she's being lawfare just like Trump was, and being prevented from even being on the ticket next time for president, even though every time she's in it, she wins. Political death sentence. Populist Marine Le Pen banned from running in the French presidential election by a Paris court. She was banned because they knew she would win. And she's been winning. She's won several times. So, anyway, not really new news there. But, yeah, Trump's been out talking about this a little bit and said that she's being framed just like he was. So, I tend to agree with that. I think that whatever, they've come up with here is simply to keep her off the ballot and incarcerate her just like they were doing with Trump. Makes total sense. Somebody that threatens their system, All right, and then this one, J.K. Rowling says suspension of toddler from nursery for transphobia or homophobia is totalitarian insanity. Well, she would be right about that. Author J.K. Rowling has described the decision to kick a toddler out of nursery school after they were accused of transphobia or homophobia as totalitarian insanity, which of course it is. The child, aged either 3 or 4, was suspended from a state school 3 years ago for abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity. So this was 3 years ago, I guess. Department of Education data revealed this week. Details of the specific school or case during the 2022-3 academic term were not disclosed. However, it appears that this is not an isolated case. So J.K. Rowling, or Rowling, I'm not sure which it is, but she's the author of the Harry Potter books. This is totalitarian insanity. If you think small children should be punished for being able to recognize sex, you are a dangerous zealot who should be nowhere near kids or in any position of authority over them. So that's absolutely true. So anyway, I didn't know if you guys knew about the little one who was kicked out of nursery school. Total insanity. And I think it was for not wanting to sit on the lap of a transgender person. Too scary, So obviously that little kid has homophobia or transphobia. Now, I think the person with the real problem is the person pretending to be something other than they are, which of course is a guy pretending to be a girl or vice versa. So anyway, that is an MSN article actually. And then this one, Police make 30 arrests a day for offensive online messages. So this is, back to the UK again. This is some of what's going on over there, which we talk about pretty often on this show. Civil liberties groups say that the authorities are over-policing the internet and threatening free speech using vague laws. Well, that's the whole point. That's why they're doing what they're doing. The police are making more than 30 arrests per day over offensive posts on social media and other platforms. And, again, this is the UK and England in particular. Look who's in charge over there. King Charles, isn't it? Many people would say, well, he's just a figurehead. He's not really in charge of anything. But I think he is, actually. Makes a lot of sense that he would be. Thousands of people are being detained and questioned for sending messages that cause annoyance, inconvenience, or anxiety to others via the internet, telephone, or mail. Custody data obtained by the Times shows that officers are making about 12,000 arrests a year under Section 127 of the Communications Act of 2003. So anyway, not good. A couple more articles on the whole trans thing. I thought this was an interesting thing that came up this week. Exclusive brave fencer, someone who likes to fence, who refused to fight a transgender rival, reveals sickening pro-trans culture inside of the sport. So, the actual woman here who has Turner on her left leg, let's see, her name is Stephanie Turner, is taking a knee here because she doesn't want to fight this ginormous guy who's pretending to be a woman. It says female fencer disqualified for refusing to fight a biological male opponent has lifted the lid on the shocking pro-trans culture at USA Fencing. Stephanie Turner, 31, again, her, was competing in a tournament at the University of Maryland when she took a knee and walked out of her match against the trans rival Redmond Sullivan, who was born a man. And I would add, still is a man. After refusing to compete, Turner was issued a black card by fencing officials, which suspended her from the competition. The controversial decision has sparked outrage on social media amongst users left dismayed by a female athlete being punished for choosing not to line up against a biological male. Despite the uproar, USA Fencing has issued a statement justifying its decision while supporting Sullivan, the guy, and the inclusion of trans athletes in women's sports. An exclusive interview with Daily Mail, fencing star Turner revealed she has been scared to reach out to the USA Fencing organization with her concerns given the pro-trans views of high-ranking officials within the governing body. Site name checks Damien Leffelt, an at-large director on the USA Fencing Board of Directors who runs a blog named The Fencing Coach, has previously written a passionate defense of the inclusion of trans athletes in women's sports. So this is our actual biological female here, Stephanie Turner. So this is the hero in the story, okay? And this would be the biological male who wants to fight this actual female. And instead, she took a knee and decided, no, I'm not going to fight you because you are a man. And this is the guy here, Turner, says she was scared to reach out to USA Fencing official like this guy, Damien, above, because he's the guy that has supported trans activists like this in the sport. So what I really want to know is, what's on this guy's hard drives? I think we should start there. Anyways, fencing. Who'd have thought? But yeah, fencing has now been completely taken over by men in women's sports. So there you go. More of what we already knew about, I guess. But yeah, it's USA Fencing. So even though Trump came up with the executive order that basically stopped all this stuff, it's still going on. They do it anyway. They don't care. So anyways, more power to her. Hopefully she will get her situation there straightened out, and USA Fencing will become more obliged to helping actual women in the sport versus men who are just pretending that they're women. And then here's another one. This is kind of similar story. A boy rejoined the boys team, proving that trans are not banned from sports. They just have to follow the exact same rules as everyone else. So this is our friend here who is a boy pretending to be a girl. You can see the pink streaks, I guess the red streaks or pink streaks in his hair. But this is what's funny here. This is the, I guess, a cover of a website or magazine called Them, like as in they, them. Forced off of her track team, a trans high schooler in Virginia joined the boys instead. Look how deceptive that is. None of that is true. Yes, he rejoined the boys team because he couldn't compete as a girl because he was a boy. Yeah, here. Forced off her track team. We don't hate the media enough. Yeah. Kind of weird for a guy to wear a dress, but guys do a lot of weird stuff. Sounds like an accommodating team focused on merit. The boy rejoined the boys team, proving that trans are not banned from sports. They just have to follow the same rules as everyone else. Well, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? Unfortunately, that's not the case. All right. Elon Musk, mass immigration is insane and will lead to the destruction of any country that allows unfettered mass immigration. A country is not its geography. A country is its people. This is a fundamental concept.
The mass immigration is insane and will lead to the destruction of any country that allows unfettered mass immigration. That country will simply cease to exist. At the end of the day, it is a numbers game, a numbers situation. If there are 8 billion people in the world, and let's say you're a country of 50 million, 60 million, or for a medium-sized country, but even for a country like the United States, which is 350 million, given that there are 8 billion people in the world, it only takes a few percent of the rest of the world to move to the country to where it is no longer that country. A country is not its geography. A country is its people. This is a fundamental concept that is really obvious. I mean, if you took the people of Italy and you teleported the people of Italy to say some part of the United States, it would still be Italy. But if you teleported a bunch of people from some other part of the world to Italy, where they're telling people no longer because they've been teleported to America, then the region, the geographic region, would no longer be Italy. It would be that other country. A country is its people, not its geography.
The same can be said about Israel, can't it? Oh, we don't want to talk about that, do we? Yes, the country is not its geography, the country is its people. Well, Israel has been named Israel, and the people in the Bible, the people that the Bible talk about, Israel is a people, not a country. So anyway, kind of interesting, and that was a little clip there from Musk. So anyway, yes, let's keep going here. We've got this article pulled up. The Institute of Peace deleted 1 terabyte of data to cover up its crimes, but Doge found it. I never heard of the Institute of Peace. Sounds very 1984-ish, doesn't it? Only in the twisted world of the DC swamp could something calling itself the Institute of Peace be caught deleting 1 terabyte of financial data to cover up their crimes. And thanks to Doge and the team, the truth is coming out anyway. Because these criminal bozos were dumb enough to think that they could erase their tracks with the delete button. Oh yeah, I did hear about this. Yeah, Elon put it perfectly. Any government institution is most likely to be the opposite of its name. And in this case, the so-called Institute of Peace looks more like the Institute of Corruption, Deception, and Cover-Ups, run by a bunch of clowns who never thought they'd get caught, so they didn't even bother learning how to be smart criminals. According to Musk, these geniuses try to wipe clean a massive amount of financial data, 1 full terabyte, in a last-ditch attempt to hide their crimes, but their tech illiteracy gave them away. As Elon posted, they deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes, but they don't understand technology, so we recovered it. That is hilarious. I'm going to tell you what they did. I know what they did because I've seen it. Here are his posts about the Institute of Peace. And then you can see United States Institute of Peace funded Taliban and Iraqi leaders. So, of course, it's the Institute of Peace because it's the religion of peace, which is anything but. They deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes, but they don't understand technology, so we recovered it. The story behind the Institute is nothing new, just another classic case of government waste, fraud, and abuse playing out in the most shameless and brazen way possible. And as usual, the bad guys in the U.S. government are doing everything they can to cover up their fraud and their crimes. So anyway, here's more details on exactly what happened. And let's see, who's this? This is a Doge person, I guess. So anyway, yeah, what they did here was all of this financial data, they just hit delete on the computer. They highlighted the files they wanted to get rid of and hit delete. Well, even if you go in and you know, if it's a Windows machine, which most of these machines would be Windows machines, you go in and you look at the recycle bin, and if you don't empty the recycle bin, obviously you can restore the files really easily and quickly. So they most likely hit delete and then they emptied the recycle bin as well. Well, the files are still there. That's what they didn't know, a little detail that they didn't know about. No, what you have to do is, and I've done this before, not to cover up tracks, but to start over from scratch because I've had to, repairing people's computers. No, you have to run what's called a low-level format. It literally writes ones and zeros over the whole hard drive so that nothing can be recovered. You do that in the case of what I was working on, was so that you could reinstall Windows and start from scratch. So, you know, they didn't really have time probably to do something like that, but it could be done. And we've talked before about BleachBit. So they didn't even know about BleachBit. So it's just pretty funny, and you can see how ridiculous and silly a lot of these criminals who are heading up government agencies actually are. But I thought that was pretty funny. That is a Revolver story, and then so is this one. Resign. Justice Roberts' secret friendship with Norm Eisen has been revealed. People are really calling for Roberts, who was put in by Bush, to resign. Hopefully he will, but we'll see. After you finish this blog, you'll be asking the million-dollar question, why is Chief Justice John Roberts hanging out with Deep State's #1 color revolution architect? Turns out the left's favorite Republican, quote-unquote, has some very interesting buddies. According to Norm Eisen, note that name, that is not a Presbyterian name. The man who practically wrote the Deep State's playbook on color revolutions, all things anti-Trump and lawfare in the U.S., he and Chief Justice John Roberts are not only good pals, but they even spent a week together in the Czech Republic. According to Norm, the two BFFs were there working on the American rule of law issues. Norm was so proud of this that he actually bragged about the trip and made it very clear that Roberts isn't corrupt. Oh no, not at all. He's just a close friend who happened to fly overseas and stay at Eisen's posh 150-room palace to collaborate on transatlantic political projects. Really. And no, that's not weird. It's a massive conflict of interest, and it could also explain a lot. As it stands now, Justice Roberts has no business presiding over any of the cases that Eisen and his army of lawfare activists are funneling through the courts, and we all know that Norm is tied to so many of these weaponized cases. He should have been recusing himself from the get-go and probably outright resigning for the integrity of the court. So, anyway, it kind of goes on and on here. There's quite a bit here, but man, this Justice Roberts is one compromised dude, I think, in probably more ways than one, if you know what I mean. So, anyway, yeah, he's just hanging out. They're BFFs forever, I guess. Norm Eisen. Trump's approval rating rose this week as he launched a new trade war, according to this Daily Mail poll. So yeah, it's interesting that the globalists keep trying and doing everything they can to take this guy down, and his numbers just keep going up. which, I get it. I think that remains to be seen where we end up, of course. But, it says more popular now than before. He enacted several tariffs on imported goods to the U.S., which also led to the stock market taking a dip earlier this week as global markets adjusted to the trading plans. So we'll see where it goes. Again, we could be, in the beginnings of what we call the bloodbath early on in the show tonight. So let's hope that's not the case. But I think that would probably reduce his rating if stocks start to crash. But then on the other hand, if we got these central banks out of this whole mess of the interweaving of all of our lives, I think that would be a good thing. So let's see what happens.
We're going to get the chemtrails out, the chemicals out of the chemtrails.
I'm the first person to ever see the cloud with the intention to cause it to do military damage.
The Army's need to know more and more about weather that surrounds this planet is a vital part of the expanded research program of atomic weapons. We all talk about the weather. The Army is doing something about the weather.
We physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War.
But there weren't any real clouds around. This was the end of the monsoon season, but there were a number of these small clouds that barely reached the freezing level, and by putting a small amount of silver iodide in there, we got them to collect and start to build. My main contribution at Corona was to write a plan for weather modification control for the whole world at any given time. We could send a number of airplanes with the materials and dispensing equipment we had, and probably control the weather all the way around the world. We were the first ones to fly into hurricanes for the purpose of modifying them, if you will. That was Project Storm Fury. I began to be extremely confident that we could do about what we wanted to with a hurricane. The Project Storm Fury had been going on since 1961, and they had already done two experiments, one in 61 and 63. Well, by 1964, when I was there in 1964, I wrote the plan and started to have a track and a mission for every flight that was on the hurricane cloud seeding experiments. So we had documentation for everything.
The climate engineering transmissions are 10 times more powerful than the frequency transmissions for communications. So all of this is a part of the problem, and manipulating wind flows as well. And that's key. We see it happening right now with the severe weather outbreaks happening in the U.S. as manipulated flows of moisture are being migrated in from the western U.S., chemically nucleated, creates a cold, dense layer of air on the surface. As they push that eastward and it collides with manipulated moisture from the record warm Gulf, and those two air masses collide, you get severe weather, which creates unstable atmospheric conditions, which creates cyclonic rotations. The cyclonic rotations that are being spawned right now are from conditions that are directly connected to climate engineering. That doesn't mean a specific cyclone in a specific location, but it means the overall region that has been set up for a spawning ground for tornadoes. And that's inarguable. We can argue the motives and the agendas, but the fact that climate engineering is manipulating conditions that are spawning these conditions is inarguable.
Fourth generation farmer, and they are finding in the land that we've had for so long in a 100-year-old farm, things that they have no idea or reason why things should be in the soil. I'm talking bacteria, I'm talking different acids, pH levels, but it's all come from what falls out of the air.
1998, which was the warmest year ever recorded up to that point in time. That's when they coined the term climate change instead of global warming, because they knew they'd be causing these flash chemical cool downs. The vapor pressure deficit is the respiratory pores on crops, trees. They shut when conditions are, as we've just described, so they don't uptake carbon, they don't release oxygen. We don't have anybody in the environmental community discussing this and the effect from climate engineering. So again, hypocrisy from the environmentalist community, leaving out all these pieces of the puzzle.
Ben, why hasn't there been a lawsuit against the government for not stopping these hurricanes?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I really don't understand why, because the government certainly has reneged on its responsibility to the citizens of the country to protect them.
There's no hiding from this issue. I want to state that. You cannot put this issue in the rearview mirror like you can so many other issues, and people choose to ignore it if they can. Can't ignore this. This is pounding the nails into our collective coffins by the day.
Yeah, so Mr. Dane was on with Alex this week, and he did a tremendous job as usual, and just wanted to play a few clips of that, and wanted to mention that you guys should visit GeoWatch. We'll look at that a little closer in a little bit when we get there. I've got a couple things. This is show and tell. I've got a couple things I want to show you guys when we get there. But anyways, yeah, let's keep moving with the news. I had several more things to go through tonight. We have lots of tabs across the top, as you can see, lots to talk about. So hopefully we'll have time to get through it all. Tesla owner takes punishment of a vandal into his own hands, and it might be just worse. It might just be worse than jail. So, you know, this is quite the story even still. People scratching up Teslas and worse. Let's see. The story here was the the camera. These cars have cameras built in, so it was all recorded. This is the guy keying this person's car, but this guy here is now facing a felony charge of criminal mischief, which, if he's found guilty, would possibly result in 2 years in jail and could be fined up to $10,000. And the person that owns the car is saying here that they're going to sue this guy who did the keying of the car for $1 million in property damage, meaning emotional distress, property damage, mental anguish, and legal costs. So, wow. So he's really going to hit this guy hard. You know, I doubt that he'll actually get that, but it is interesting that they're not playing it safe here. They're going for it. So this article is on the Western Journal, and I think we may see more of that with these car owners that are, getting their property vandalized for no reason whatsoever. This article as well on the same site, the Western Journal. Precious video: a scared 3-year-old gives himself a pep talk as he works to save his great-grandma's life. So I thought this was kind of a cool little story. It's pretty short, so let's watch this. Let me see if I can expand it out here a little bit and play it for you guys.
3-year-olds,
hey here, buddy,
don't always follow directions.
Bridger, what'd I tell you? Come here.
3-year-olds will sometimes do what they shouldn't.
Bridger, don't put him in the grass.
But when 3-year-old Bridger Peabody needed to listen most, he did. If Bridger wasn't there,
I don't know what I would have done.
Sharon Lewis is Bridger's great-grandma.
Gigi!
His Gigi.
Grandma! Bridger, come over here, honey.
One night in February, Bridger's sister needed to get treatment at Children's Hospital. So while his family stayed with his sister, Gigi offered to take Bridger home.
And we went up to the backyard, dark backyard, and then we got up to the door where I was going to get the keys out.
She had her walker, and she fell.
And when I fell, I hit the corner of the cement step.
She bumped her head, and then it popped open.
Sharon says she couldn't get up or call for help. Her phone was still in the car.
And I said, you know what? You're going to have to go out to the car and get my phone.
I was scared outside in the really dark.
But Bridger did brave the really dark.
Yeah.
And he yells, I got it, Gigi.
Yes. I did it.
Sharon was able to call other family to get her an ambulance.
But she's all better.
Bridger wouldn't call himself a big kid.
I know. But when I grow up like a big kid, I can help Gigi.
You see him?
When it comes to 3-year-olds,
You're Gigi's hero.
Bridger is in a league of his own.
He's just a blessing.
What a story. What a story. I thought that was pretty cool. Cute kid. Yeah, I like how he was giving himself the pep talk as he was walking through the dark, making his way to get the phone. Anyway, kind of a neat little story. I didn't imagine you guys had ever heard of any of this, but one I came across and thought I would share it with you guys. Pretty cool. All right, and then let's see here. peoplesvoice.tv, just some of the top headlines here. A couple of these things we may have already covered or mentioned, but we'll mention them again because they're linked to here. Over 30,000 small boat migrants have arrived in the UK under Starmer's watch. 30,000. I'm sure he would take lots more if he could. Rome, thousands protest the EU's rearmament plan. Yep, they're ready to go back to war, go further into war with Russia via Ukraine. And then this one, exposed EU planning to steal citizens' private savings to fund endless war machine. So this is something that I had mentioned on this show as well. This has been talked about in several different places. European Union is on the brink of unprecedented heist, poised to ransack the savings accounts of its citizens to funnel billions into the greedy hands of Ursula von der Leyen's arms manufacturing allies. So funneling it to Ukraine. Yeah, the story has been that they're going to take people's savings accounts in the UK. Basically, one of the bank bail-in situations where they're stealing people's money and going to funnel it to the endless war machine. So I don't know. It hasn't happened yet, but it may very well. There's some dark stuff afoot for sure in the UK. Let's see here. BlackRock rakes in billions, pushing child transitioning. Young bodies are a gold mine, according to BlackRock, of course. And Trump tells Americans to hang tough as America's greatness is restored. It's going to be a tough one if the stock market crashes, though. You got to admit. PM Mark Carney says Canada is ready to lead the world. Meanwhile, everyone laughs. No, nothing against Canada, but give me a break. Proposal to ban geoengineering and weather mod approved by Florida. Mentioned that before. Florida Senate. And so it's still in process there. U.S. VP Vance warns Europe that its greatest threat comes from within. Yeah, they're called Democrats. And Republicans who just sit around on their hands. Minnesota Satanists praise Governor Tim Walz for spreading Satanism, quote unquote. So that's nice. I'm sure Governor Walz is very proud of that. Anyway, those are the stories, the top headlines on thepeoplesvoice.tv. And then Information Liberation primarily are going to be stories about Israel. That's what I've found. And rightfully so. Here are some of the top headlines. IDF gunned down Gaza paramedics in clearly marked emergency vehicles, recovered video shows. Yeah, I saw this, and it is very disturbing. Israeli Defense Forces gunned down a squad of 15 paramedics and AIDS workers in Gaza, traveling in clearly marked emergency vehicles. Video recovered off of one of the victims' cell phones reveals. So the IDF and Netanyahu and Israel in general, they're still at it. So don't think it stopped. They're still just shooting anything that moves over there, if it's in Gaza at least. Key October 7th mass rapes, quote-unquote, witness featured in Sheryl Sandberg film exposed as a serial liar. The key witness in this film is now being accused by an Israeli journalist of being a liar who made up stories from beginning to end. So there you go. Only 15 senators vote to block arms to Israel, despite majority of Americans wanting the aid to end. Doesn't matter what we say, though. It only matters what Israel wants. Right? Making Israel great again. Trump's new slogan. Trump's Liberation Day includes slapping 17% tariff on Israel. That means our tariff that they have on us is probably 34%, 35%. Randy Fine wins Florida House race after Trump and the GOP scrambled to prop up his campaign, and it'd have to be a very hefty prop to prop this guy up. Have you seen him? Yeah, and then the rabbi tells Senate hearing it's not enough to be not anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic. We saw that clip in the beginning video tonight from the Reese Report. Anyway, that's some of the headlines on information liberation. A few of the RT headlines. Let's see here. Only pulled up a couple here. Vance reveals Musk's future White House role. Tech billionaires work for the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump is not even close to done, the VP said. Yeah, there's a lot of stories, talk at least on X earlier in the week that Musk and Trump have had a falling out and that his days are about over. He's going to be done with Doge and move on soon, and that's all fake news. He's going to stay on, I think, for as long as he's needed. And the original setup with his running of Doge, I think, was 130 days, and that reaches its end in May this year. So, his role could change, but I don't think he's going anywhere. So for you Musk haters out there, you might not be too happy to hear that. It says Vance has claimed that Musk will remain a friend and advisor to Trump and to himself when his tenure as Department of Government Efficiency Doge is complete. Musk's role as a special government employee is set to conclude by late May. Yeah. After which the billionaire is expected to return to his private ventures. Doge, created under Trump's executive order, will remain active until at least 2026. So Doge will continue its work. But yeah, he does have a few businesses to run. You've probably heard of them. SpaceX and Tesla and so forth. But we'll see. I mean, he may move on. He may go to a partial situation where he's working, part-time and then continuing whatever he's doing with Tesla and SpaceX and so forth. But I don't know. We'll see. It doesn't look like he's going anywhere, though. That was kind of an important thing to mention. And then this one, for you hockey fans out there, of which I am one, this is a pretty big deal. Russian icon, I think it's funny how Russia Today, RT, calls him a Russian icon. He's more than that. He's an absolute legend in the hockey world. Breaks all-time NHL record. Alexander Ovechkin today scored his 895th goal, beating hockey legend Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. So that was a big deal in the hockey world today. That did happen. And he plays for the Washington Capitals. And you can see here what that was like, if you missed it.
Back into his own zone there. But no, look, he's just trying to find a seam and know that, hey, I'm going to try to force it to him if he's open.
Here is Ovechkin. Shoots! He scores! He scores! Number 895!
So there you go, number 895. That is a huge deal in hockey because only Wayne Gretzky has ever gotten that many goals, 894, and Ovi just beat the record. So congratulations to Alexander Ovechkin, a Russian icon, as they say here on RT. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, he's an incredible player and certainly deserving of that accolade. So anyway, pretty good news there, I think, if you're a Washington Caps fan, which I'm not really, but we'll see where it goes. I think the overall game, though, that he was playing in, that was the only goal scored for Washington, and they ended up losing that particular game, but they have a really good season going on this year. Unlike my team, who's pretty much out of the playoffs, but we won't talk about them. All right, let's see here. Let's keep moving. Trump announces extension of deadline to save TikTok. This is on WNG.org. President posted on Truth Social that he is signing an order to keep TikTok online for another 75 days, narrowly avoiding Saturday's deadline for the parent company ByteDance to divest from the Chinese government. Trump said his administration is working on a deal with the Chinese government and American investors to decouple the app from the CCP, Communist Party. but it needs more time. He acknowledged that recent tariffs on China may have complicated negotiations, but he said he looks forward to working with TikTok and China to close a deal. See, that's the thing. He's all about the art of the deal, isn't he? It's what makes him run. So anyway, we'll see where it goes. I don't know. TikTok, I don't really have too much faith in personally in what TikTok's doing. I know if I upload videos, you'll see how many plays I get. You can tell just by the top row here. 0 plays, 0 plays, 0 plays, 2 plays, 0 plays, 0 plays, 1 play, 28 plays, 23 plays, 5 plays. So I pretty much have, there's no point in me uploading videos to TikTok, but you see some of the earlier ones that I uploaded have more. They have upwards of a couple hundred or more, I guess, some of these. But yeah, the TikTok thing doesn't work too much for what I put out as far as video content goes. I guess it's a little too off the beaten track. But I've had enough videos that have been taken down that I think that their system has thoroughly flagged my account. And so anything that I upload basically just goes nowhere. The only people that see it is me. That's it. So anyway, I haven't really stopped uploading, but I'm not really finding anything that's working. You know, notice the Gene Hackman video only got 2 plays. And there was nothing about that other than the story about Gene Hackman. There was no other conversation there because the videos can only be 10 minutes or shorter. So, you know, that kind of negates just about anything that I would personally put on there. Anyway, so TikTok, I guess, is still in limbo a little bit. All right, and then this story was mentioned to me by a friend of mine, and I had seen the video here, which we'll look at that. So you guys probably have seen this. I don't know. Trump bombed a tribal meeting from a drone and then brags about it on Twitter. So you can see that this is comparing this to this, which may be the same thing. It does kind of look like it. It's got the big circle here going on. And this is what was posted on his X account later, I guess, and also on Truth Social. And you can see, we'll just let it play here, and I'll just talk over the top of it. You can see there's a circle, and kaboom, you see the big explosion here, and you'll see the huge crater afterwards. They literally killed everyone in that circle. Now, Trump says these Houthis gathered for instructions on an attack, and then he says, oops, there will be no attack by these Houthis because they're all dead. They will never sink our ships again. I'm not so sure that they've ever sunk any of our ships. But you see the crater here. See it? Massive crater. Trump shares collateral murder-style snuff film on 15th anniversary of collateral murder. So once again, you have Trump doing the exact opposite of what a believer would do, for sure, which I think most people aren't really confusing him or accusing him of being a Christian. But this is, I don't know, this is very disturbing, to say the least. Trump has posted a video on his social media showing a U.S. airstrike in Yemen, killing dozens of people who he claims are Houthis gathered for instructions on an attack, quote unquote. He also bizarrely suggested that Ansar Allah has been sinking U.S. ships in its Red Sea attacks, writing that they will never sink our ships again, quote unquote. There is no public information about any U.S. ships having been sunk by Houthi attacks. As of this writing, there is also no evidence supporting the president's claim that the people killed in the airstrike were combatants. There are photos online of unarmed Yemeni tribesmen standing in the exact formation seen in the video Trump posted for normal civilian gatherings. Yeah, like this. Now, in this one, you can see somebody's got a Palestinian flag, it looks like. But this is like seriously bad news here. I've seen many observers comparing the video Trump posted to the leaked collateral murder video. You may remember that. Published by WikiLeaks in 2010, which showed U.S. servicemen firing on Iraqi civilians and journalists from Apache helicopters while laughing and joking about the carnage they were inflicting. What hasn't received quite enough attention is the fact that Trump actually shared his collateral murder-style snuff film on the anniversary of the day that WikiLeaks published the collateral murder video. And if you missed that, it's all here in all of its ugly glory, for sure. And I did watch a little bit of this because I'd forgotten some of it, but yeah, it's really bad, really bad. So yeah, they're literally just blowing people up and laughing about it. So judge, jury, and executioner, and that's what the military was doing, at least in this collateral murder video in Iraq. And then that appears to be what Trump is celebrating in this video that I just played for you guys. So very disturbing, to say the least, but I wanted to point that out. And yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that they would gather in a circle like that and be planning an attack on the ships going through the Red Sea. That doesn't really make much sense. But note that this particular article is on the Ron Paul Institute website. So not exactly a fly-by-night type of website for sure. So anyway, yeah, ronpaulinstitute.org. It's front and center on the homepage. Now let's see here, InfoWars article. There is overwhelming evidence that the Wisconsin Supreme Court race was stolen, says Roger Stone. It's a matter of simple math, and the numbers just don't add up. Yeah, so this just happened this last week. Republican political insider Roger Stone joins Alex, calling on investigators to probe this week's Wisconsin Supreme Court race, where mail-in voting was allowed after a Democrat won, giving the court a 4-3 liberal majority. Yeah, so they rigged the elections. We know that that's pretty much what they always do. So there's the embedded video here with Roger Stone talking about that. Trump confidant smells shenanigans after GOP blocked from securing conservative majority on Wisconsin Supreme Court. So this lady's the one that won, and Musk was in Wisconsin supporting her adversary there, and it looked like, for all intents and purposes, he should have won, and in fact, she won. So anyway, yeah. Susan says, I'm confused. Do you believe Trump is good for America or has inherently evil intentions? I think that he thinks that he is trying to make America great again. And I think that most of his decisions come from that. I don't think he is necessarily evil. I think that some of his decisions could end up resulting in bad things happening. I don't personally think that he is evil. I do think that God spared his life for a reason. More than once. It wasn't just the ear graze in Pennsylvania, but you might remember that he was shot at the golf course down in Florida as well. So it's more than once he has been spared. That doesn't mean he's perfect. I just think that God did have a plan for him. Now, whether or not he carries that out as God intended, that's up to him. But yeah, I think that, while he's doing some good things, I do think that he's doing a lot of bad things as well. Case in point, the Houthis video that I just showed you. So obviously there is a lot of bad going on too. So we'll see. It's still pretty early in the Trump administration. We're only just a few months in. So yeah, we'll see where it goes, huh? I thought this one was pretty interesting. I did actually see this on X first. Neuralink says Musk's Neuralink seeks patients globally to try its brain chips on. Wow. No thanks. Musk's brain chip company Neuralink, they're calling it brain chips, but I don't know if that's actually what's embedded at this point. It says it's recruiting participants worldwide to trial its device, which enables users to control a computer only using their thoughts. Neuralink is looking for people with quadriplegia, those who are not able to use their arms or legs, to sign up for a clinical trial. It said that in April 2nd post on X. As of January, Neuralink has said that 3 patients have been implanted with the device. 3. All are quadriplegic and are testing a small brain implant that tracks neural activity. to control a computer or smartphone as part of a clinical trial called the Precise Robotically Implanted Brain-Computer Interface. So, we'll see what happens. Neuralink is one of several companies and academic institutions developing and testing so-called brain-computer interfaces, which vary from small wire-like implants as part of clinical trials to non-invasive devices akin to a hat. But for people who have no use of their arms and legs, I guess, they might want to try it. I don't know. So pretty interesting that they're out there asking people to volunteer. Yeah. There was a guy that I forget the name of the film now. It's been long enough, but there was a guy that had Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, that I was involved in a film where he was the star of the film, even though it was a low-budget sort of independent film. But he was a filmmaker who basically turned the camera on himself when he started, when he was first diagnosed with ALS. And the movie is a very interesting story of his life, from being diagnosed to being completely wheelchair ridden and unable to use his arms or legs or anything other than basically he could think fine and he could move his eyes, and that was about it. And he was actually able to email people. I traded emails with him before because I was working on his film as a music supervisor, finding and clearing really good songs, really good music that was used in the film. This was several years ago now, probably 2013, something like that. So it was a while back. But it was really interesting because he had a computer system he could use that tracked the motion of his eyes. So his eyeballs, he could use his eyes just by certain motions, certain movements, and he could type an email and send it. It was pretty amazing. So they do have that sort of technology. That's non-invasive. That's a situation where you have probably some sort of laser optical type thing that is visually tracking your eye motion and able to do things like surf the web or type emails or whatever. So they do have that type of thing. I don't, personally, if I were in that situation, I don't know that I would want a brain chip, but I do think it's interesting. So just know that stuff is out there, and that's how Neuralink is at least starting this particular part of the process. So I don't know. My guess is they've already been doing this for a while, so I don't know why it's just now coming out. All right, and then this is the video clip I mentioned a little bit ago. It was also already in the first video that we watched tonight from the Reese Report. Rabbi tells senators the federal government must pass the Anti-Free Speech Anti-Semitism Awareness Act and adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. Universities that tolerate anti-Semitic harassment, quote unquote, must face real consequences, he insists. So yes, you cannot criticize the tiny hat people. You can't. Because if you do, you will be called a name and deported, even if you're not from here, I guess. So anyways, more of the same, right? Rabbi tells Senate hearing on anti-Semitism that it's not enough to be anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic. It's never enough. The anti-free speech laws are about to get insane as we march towards capital punishment for publicly criticizing the you-know-whos. And it rhymes with the you-know-whos. So, I don't know. It's not looking good. Apple quietly working on AI agent to replica a human doctor. Would you trust it? Well, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that AI had, I think it was ChatGPT, this woman had gotten a bad diagnosis from her doctor, and she took her test results and fed them into ChatGPT, and it gave her a completely different diagnosis. And so then she took her results that she got from ChatGPT and showed her doctor, and he's like, oh yeah, I guess that AI was right. I didn't look at X. I didn't look at that. I didn't look at whatever it was. So he forgot to do some of the things that AI had actually done correctly. So this is talking about Apple quietly working on an AI agent to replicate a human doctor. So we know this is coming. It's just a matter of how fast, really. As it struggles to hit its stride in the generative AI race, Apple is quietly working on an AI doctor service. Bloomberg is reporting. A move that the company seemingly hopes will revitalize its foray into medical tech. The secret initiative, dubbed Project Mulberry and nicknamed Health Plus, aims to give a facelift to Apple's fairly basic health app, along with integrating a health coach. Bloomberg described the service as being powered by a new AI agent that would replicate, at least to some extent, a real doctor. So they have to be careful how they market this, I'm pretty sure, because some people are automatically going to say no way to anything related to an anti-human situation where they're just talking to a computer. I think young people would be far more easily coerced into only dealing with a computer because they just have their phones and live vicariously through life through their phones. I'm sure you know some of them. So yeah, they just do everything through their phone. So why wouldn't your doctor be through your phone or through your computer or whatever? Yeah, using your Apple devices like an iPhone or Apple Watch, the idea is that the revamped health app will collect all sorts of health metrics ranging from your heart rate, and then based on that data, the AI doctor would recommend ways to improve your health. Just how deep will these recommendations go? Per the report, the health app will have a major emphasis on food tracking, something that the current app doesn't do. In some shape or form, the AI doctor is supposed to help users with those nutrition features, though it's unclear how. Ambitiously, Apple is also working on using your phone's camera so the AI agent can study your workout, giving you tips on your form. Isn't that nice? It's worth being skeptical about how these features will work in practice. Apple's stab at AI, Apple Intelligence, was largely seen as an underwhelming flop. The greatest concern is the tech's proclivity for hallucinating, something that Apple has caught flack for when its AI constantly butchered summaries of news headlines, leading the company to suspend the feature. Yeah, they call it hallucinating when the AI goes off the rails and gives you some unusable, bunch of text or some response that you ask it. So anyway, that's on Futurism, futurism.com. Leo Hohmann's two most recent articles. 50 senators from both parties line up behind a bill that would punish Russia, quote unquote, punish Russia for not agreeing to peace deal with Ukraine. 25 Republican neocons and 25 Democrat neo-libs joined hands to sponsor a bill that would impose a whopping 500% tariff on any country purchasing Russian oil, gas, or uranium. World War III hangs in the balance. Wow. 500% tariff. Man, oh man. Trump fires 3 neocon warmongers from his White House National Security Council staff. There's something about this story being widely reported today that doesn't pass the smell test. Again, this is leohohmann.com. President Trump reportedly fired 3 pro-war neocons on his National Security Council shortly after he met with Laura Loomer in the Oval Office. The president met Wednesday with Loomer, a conservative social media influencer with an unconventional style. Loomer has publicly accused Trump administration staffers of disloyalty and said there have been vetting failures at the NSC and elsewhere through the various posts on X. So break down the story here and point out a few oddities. And then the other article on the front page here we mentioned last week about Trump making bizarre statement about joining the U.S. British Commonwealth of Nations as an associate member. I love King Charles, he says. Well, we covered that last week ad nauseum, so we won't bother going into that again, but it is here on Leo's site, should you choose to have a look. All right, and then naturalnews.com. Global pedophile ring KidFlix shut down in landmark Europol operation. Darknet platform called KidFlix. You can imagine what that is. Shut down. That's interesting. I would think they would be wanting that to even gain subscribers in the UK, but I guess not. And then looking to see what else there is. Trump administration suspends federal grants to Princeton University amid anti-Semitism probe. So here we go again. They're really cracking down on the college campuses. That's what they seem to really care about. Not so much the Epstein list or the JFK assassination or 9/11 or any of that. Nope, it's free speech on college campuses. That's what we're going after. We're sicking the DOJ on all of them. All right, and then the hidden war above, chemtrails, HAARP, and the battle for planetary control. This one actually is an article mentioning Ilana Freeland. She does good work as well. So anyway, that is some of the natural news headlines. Always good stuff. And then this, if you guys missed it, is certainly worth watching. This is Mike Adams' report here with Dr. Jane Ruby, talking about some of the things she has collected on her, the plastic covering her garden, and they've analyzed it under a super microscope kind of thing, and you'll see one of the things that they found. Look at the structure this has here. It's got straight lines in it. I mean, that is not nature. That is not nature. So anyway, this says Brighteon Broadcast News, April 4th, Kill Zone. Shocking new lab test reveals chemtrails are weaponizing the air with toxic metals, which we already know. But yeah, it's pretty amazing some of the stuff that they found just in this more or less cursory, off-the-cuff sort of analysis, where he's literally looking at it for the first time under the microscope while he and her are talking in an interview sort of situation. So yeah, it's certainly worth checking out. This particular video isn't the one that I saw. This one's over 2 hours, so maybe a little too long for some people. But the one that I saw was from a few days ago, and it was only 20 minutes or something. So it's certainly palatable from that standpoint. And then Wine Press News, they had several articles here about geoengineering. I just wanted to mention U.S. scientists shoot salt crystals into the atmosphere to block sun's rays to fight climate change, but did not tell the public. I thought that was very strange. Biden White House releases dossier to block the sun with solar radiation modification. There's another article here. And European Union introduces new proposals to block out the sun via solar radiation modification. Usually it's called solar radiation management, SRM, to reduce emissions by 2030, I guess. So anyway, there are some pretty good articles here on Wine Press Substack. Again, it used to be a website, the Wine Press website, but now it is pretty much just on Substack. So, but it's certainly worth subscribing to. And then Rep. Andy Biggs files bold resolution to remove deep state judge Boasberg without a 2/3 Senate vote. Andy Biggs from Arizona has filed a resolution to remove Boasberg for failing to uphold the Constitution's good behavior clause without requiring the traditional 2/3 Senate vote. The resolution submitted in the House alleges Boasberg, currently chief judge in the powerful United States District Court for the District of Columbia, knowingly abused his position to interfere with the constitutional authority of Trump. The resolution declares Boasberg's conduct a breach of constitutional order, particularly his unlawful meddling in Trump's lawful directive to deport members of Tren de Aragua. So yeah, this is pretty important. We'll see if it goes anywhere. But they're trying to get rid of Boasberg, who just, I'm sure totally coincidentally has pretty much all of the Trump decisions on his desk. But yeah, it's all random. So anyway, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. That's on Gateway Pundit. Equity cameras go live in California. If you're not low income prepare to pay. San Francisco launched a controversial new traffic camera program. That does not sound good. Through which residents with low incomes or receiving government assistance will receive substantial discounts in fines. Okay. City authorities turned on 33, interesting number, new cameras last month, according to ABC in LA, yet they will not give out citations for the first 2 months of the program. Oh, they're being nice. Instead, drivers will receive warnings during that time. Drivers. Once citations do start, however, the income level of the driver will determine how much he or she will pay. You read that right. Wow. San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency revealed on its website that the fees, as mandated by state legislation, differ quite a bit based on the poverty level of the person. For example, drivers caught going between 11 and 15 miles per hour over the speed limit will ordinarily receive $50 fees. But if they are low income, they will pay $25. And if they are on public assistance, the fee will drop to $10. Well, why are they even driving a car if they don't have any money? I don't understand that. That pattern extends into much higher fines, of course, for different things. So this is about driving. So 33 cameras in San Francisco tracking whether or not you're breaking the law. And then if you are breaking the law, if you are wealthy, you pay one fee. If you're poor, you pay a different fee. Sounds fair to me. People driving a Tesla will be fined an automatic $1 million. In my best Dr. Evil voice, Susan says. That's pretty good. That's a good conclusion there. Yeah, if you're driving a Tesla. Yeah. Or a Cybertruck or any version of a Tesla, I suppose. So that is very, very strange and not all that unsurprising, being how it is San Francisco we're talking about. However, this could be something that other states pick up as well, unfortunately. Anyway, equity cameras, yes. That's what they're doing in California. Thought this one was interesting. UK Women's Pool Championship is so woke, there are no women in the finals. The finalists are both biological males. Makes sense to me. UK Women's Pool Championship is so woke that any representation by actual women are out of the finals. Both finalists are Harriet Haynes and Lucy Smith. They are biological males who, quote, identify as women. So the winner of the championship here, the women's championship, will be a non-woman. How does that make you feel? Lucy Smith equals man. Harriet Smith equals man. As Pinch Lynn told me today, the men are taller, longer reach, fingers bigger for a bridge when the balls are closer together. The travesty did not go unaddressed. A group of protesters showed up calling for women's sports to be saved. So that's good. So there's some hope. But this is in the UK, so I don't hold out much hope. You guys probably don't either. Anyway, very strange. A sea of flags. French citizens come out en masse to support Marine Le Pen after bogus conviction and election ban. Increasingly unpopular globalist leaders in Europe have unveiled their new tactic against the surging right-wing and patriotic/populist forces that would be lawfare. In Romania, in France, maybe now in Germany, the playbook is the same. They forgot the U.S. But the people don't seem to be quite supporting the trend. After a leading candidate for the next French presidential election, Marine Le Pen, was convicted of, quote, embezzling public funds and banned from running for office. She stood defiant today before a crowd that was tens of thousands strong. She stated that she had fought against injustice for 30 years and will not back down. Yeah, she's already been elected president several times, if I remember right. Won, and then they go back and do a recount. Wow, tens of thousands of French patriots have gathered in Paris to protest against a French court banning Marine Le Pen from running in the 2027 presidential election. So that's 2 years from now. That's crazy. But yeah, they're probably going to jail her too, is my guess. Why wouldn't they? That's what they did to so many different populist type people at this point, all over the world. World War G. Trump tariffs aren't just economics; they're America's frontline defense in the globalist communist hybrid war. World War G, meaning globalist, I guess. The reaction from the left to Trump's new tariff regime has been predictable. Like everything he does, this too will kill us all somehow. Yeah, which we've talked about that quite a bit tonight, but thought it was interesting that they were calling it World War G against the globalists, I guess. Yeah, makes sense. Alive. Pope Francis makes surprise first public appearance during Sunday's Mass in St. Peter's Square. So he's back. The faithful assembled in Vatican St. Peter's Square for the Sunday Mass when they were pleasantly surprised by the unannounced appearance of Pope Francis in his first public appearance since being discharged from the hospital 2 weeks ago. Still a week after his grueling 5-week treatment for double pneumonia, Francis entered the square in a wheelchair to greet the greeting crowd. Francis hadn't been seen in public since a short greeting before leaving Rome's hospital on March 23rd. But yeah, it's saying that he's having to relearn how to speak and everything, so it'll be a while before he's fully back, if he's fully back. I don't know. So anyway, just wanted to give an update on the old Pope there. Binary star system expected to explode soon. Resulting nova will be visible from Earth. So wow, skywatchers are scanning the night sky for an explosion, that happened 3,000 years ago. A nova called T Corona Borealis, called the Blaze Star. People that are tuned into the Blaze will be interested in this. The Blaze Star is expected to soon be visible in the night sky. According to Space.com, experts say it will be visible without fancy equipment. That pairing of a hot red giant star and a cool white dwarf star is about 3,000 light years away because it explodes every 78 to 80 years, and the last explosion took place in 1946. The next explosion has been expected for months. In April, the constellation that hosts the Blaze Star will rise in the eastern sky 3 hours after the sun sets and be visible for about 4 hours after sunset. I'm looking to see where you have to be to see it, though. Predictions that the explosion will be visible have been going on for months, with some stretching as far into the future as November 10th, June 25th, 2026, and February 8th, 2027, according to ABC. So yeah, so they don't really know. That's what they're saying. We don't know. It's going to happen sometime in the future, and we have no idea when. It could go up tonight. It could be next month. Any day now. Well, I mean, obviously, if Iran's going to get nukes, it's going to be sometime in the next 2 weeks. So I would say go by the Iranian nuke schedule. It'll be sometime in the next 2 weeks. And they'll be saying that a decade from now. That's what I think. So anyway, yeah, watch for the Blaze Star. Yeah, if you're interested. I'm not sure that I am. And then this one, modernity.news. Colbert begs the deep state to stop Trump. We're effing dying, he says. Speak for yourself there, Stephen. Late Show host Stephen Colbert called for the deep state to step in and stop Trump enacting his tariff policy, pleading we're effing dying here. Well, they tried to. It's called murder. Twice. The comedian, quote, comedian, packaged the plea as a comedy skit, but it's not comedy when you don't have to scratch the surface to tell he is deadly serious. I would highlight that word, deadly serious. They really want Trump to be KILLED, don't they? They really do. As we highlighted yesterday, the stock market plunged when it was reported that China would put retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods of 34%. But what they're missing here is they already had tariffs on U.S. goods. However, that plunge started to reverse on news of Trump being open to deals with countries to reduce the tariffs. It's part of the long-term economic strategy to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. after years of globalist free trade agreements such as NAFTA eroded away millions of jobs and businesses. So anyway, there's more here. Here's the tariffs. Normally this would open much faster, but The problem is I've got about 1,000 tabs open on my browser, and I'm doing 2 live streams all on this computer, and it's hating it. All right, so let's see here. I wanted you guys to see the real numbers. Here's the real numbers. Reciprocal tariffs. Okay, well, this is one page. I'm looking to see if China's on this one. Nope, it's all the countries that I don't really care about. All right, let's try this one. All right, there we go. So China has announced that they're going to have tariffs on U.S. goods. And look at this little detail. They already do. It's at 67%. And the U.S.'s new tariff that's reciprocal, meaning the same, is 34%. So that's not exactly reciprocal, but at least there is a tariff, whereas before it was 0. So China charges us 67%. We charge them 34% now. So it's basically half. I mentioned that earlier. So let's see here. Okay, here is, Indonesia is 64%. Now they have a 32% tariff on their stuff. So Trump basically just halved everything that they're charging. So they have an 88% tariff on U.S. goods coming into Sri Lanka. Trump just now imposed a 44% tariff. They had 0 tariff before. So this is what the left is getting so upset about. This is the unmitigated gall that Trump has to dare to help the United States economy by imposing these tariffs and balancing things out at least a little bit, when all he did was basically make it more or less half of what we were already being charged. So anyway, that was some of the tariffs that were being imposed here by our draconian overlord known as President Donald Trump, who is imposing tariffs across the world and only cares about the U.S. How dare he? All right, vaccineimpact.com. Speaking of anti-Trump here, that they are certainly that on this website. Trump announces Liberation Day for his New World Order. Is this a fulfillment of the prophecy of the great prostitute of Babylon? So that is a new article on vaccineimpact.com. Largest stock market drop since COVID, but Trump declares the patient lived. Yeah, he did say that. So a couple new ones, I guess, on the site, vaccineimpact.com. Yeah, the fulfillment of prophecy for the great prostitute of Babylon, which we talked about before. That could be Jerusalem, though, not the U.S. All right, and then I did come across this one I thought was kind of interesting. See what you guys think about it. Pastor Paula White calls on Christians to observe Passover. She's the new pastor, I guess, to the, what's her official title? Pastor Paula White, the leader of the White House Faith Office. That's her official title. Made so by Trump a few weeks back. Released a 2-video series encouraging Christians to observe the biblical feast of Passover, claiming that the ritual can unlock 7 blessings that are listed in Exodus 23:14 through 30. Do we need to observe Passover, my friends? Passover is about the blood of the lamb. Yeah. And who took care of that for us? A lamb? An actual sheep? A lamb? Or was it Jesus Christ himself? See, I personally do not think that believers need to be observing Passover, quote unquote, the way the Jews do. We need to be, irreverent. We need to be observant of, peace. But Jesus Christ took care of this for us, didn't he? So anyway, that's what this article is about, is observing Passover like you're Jewish. As in biblical Jewish. So here's what this says. According to White, for those who observe the Passover, God will do these things. Assign an angel to you. Behold, I send an angel before you. I think personally, just to sidetrack, that we already have at least one guardian angel, each of us. Let me know what you guys think. All right, the next thing says, be an enemy to your enemies. I will be an enemy to your enemies. And Israel's real good at that, aren't they? Give you prosperity. You shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water. That's the next one. take sickness away from you. I will take sickness away from you from the midst of you, give you a long life, and bring increase and inheritance. So back to the money. And a special year of blessing. So that's what Pastor Paula White is saying. If you observe Passover, you get all those goodies. When I personally do not believe that, but, I'm not so sure she does either. She's just saying that because she will be ingratiating those that run Israel. That's what I think. So that's why she's front and center on Israel365news.com. I like how you can click this banner to prevent a Palestinian state, but there's only 1 month left. So they must not have gotten the note that Iran is just 2 weeks away from a nuke, because you have a full month, though, to prevent a Palestinian state if you pay them enough, I guess. So yeah, there's a join us button that lets you give them all your money. Anyway, this is the full article here on Israel 365 News. See what you guys are saying about Passover. Yep, Jesus is our Passover lamb. Yeah, I mean, that's all we need. That's all we need. We don't need to observe Passover. I thought I had that one right. So what I was looking actually to see in this article was that if she even bothered to mention Jesus, I don't think she did. So that kind of tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? Let's see. Here's one sentence. While I understand that for Christians, Jesus came into the world to atone for humanity's sins, infusing Christological elements into the Seder, S-E-D-E-R, takes away from the significance of the Jewish holiday, he said. Okay, that's not even something she said. That is a quote from this other person here, I guess. So that's not even from Pastor Paula White. So apparently she didn't even mention Jesus. Not too surprising, isn't it? Well, anyway. Nope, wait. Here it is. She wrote a detailed explanation for Christians, stating Jesus celebrated the Passover with the disciples and he instituted the Lord's Supper. Well, that's true, but that was before he gave his life and was pierced and bled and died for us. She did mention him, so I stand corrected, but she only mentioned him before he made the ultimate sacrifice of his own life. So Pastor Paula White leading people astray appears to me. All right, let's look at GeoWatch. So here is the article for this week, and the article in the Global Alert News is called Engineering Biblical Floods. If you guys had a lot of flooding where you are, I have certainly had a bunch of rain in this area, and luckily we didn't get flooded this time. We got flooded years ago, but yeah, this time I think we got 6 or 8 inches of rain, something like that, which is a lot for this area all at once over 3 or 4 days. In 2010, the Nashville flood, which is where I am, the Nashville flood happened. We got about 21 inches of rain over a 2.5 day period. So you can imagine why everything was being washed away in 2010. And at that time, now this was before, keep in mind, this was before I was aware of geoengineering and weather warfare and all that. I didn't know anything about it. I won't say that it woke me up to it, but it certainly made me realize something odd was going on, because the strange thing was that they were calling it at that time a once in a 1,000-year flood. Once in a 1,000-year flood. And, well, guess what? They're at it again. Thunderstorms trigger catastrophic flooding across the middle of the U.S. Tornadoes forming Saturday marked the 10th day in a row with tornadoes somewhere in the country. 1 in 1,000-year flash flood warning for the Midwest and the U.S. South. That's where I am. And yeah, they were calling it a once in 1,000-year flood, but they forgot they used the same verbiage 14 years ago. No, Yeah, 14 years ago. So figure that one out. This next section here says, the report continues, millions of people have been evacuated as torrential rains overwhelm cities and infrastructure. Emergency services are working to rescue those trapped by rising waters. With widespread damage reported, the unusual intensity of the floods has left many regions facing unprecedented challenges. And from WRAL News, they say weather whiplash takes us from 90 degrees to the 30s. Climate engineering and climate chaos are inseparable. What will it take before populations will wake up, look up, and stand up to what's taking place in our skies? So yeah, that is the weekly installment Global Alert News. And again, let me do a quick refresh. I happen to know, because I work with Mr. Dane, that we posted another post on here that is kind of a sister piece to that. For people who don't have or don't want to spend 55 minutes listening to the broadcast, this week we did a 90-second alert. So you got 90 seconds. If you don't have 90 seconds, then I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, engineering biblical floods, 90-second alert. A once-in-1,000-year flash flood warning for Midwest and U.S. South, which is what I was just saying. That's what they called the flood in 2010 around here, the once-in-1,000-year flood. Well, just happens to be that they actually mean once in 15 years, because that's where we're at. Anyways, yeah. So a short video on here, as well as the longer version of the video on geoengineeringwatch.org. And here are the show and tell items I brought. So you too can have a flyer, a glossy flyer, these front and backs. And then these, let's see here, business cards that have geoengineeringwatch.org information right on them. And we've got some scannable ones too. I don't have that in front of me here, but they have a QR code that takes you to the Deming. And those are all available over here on the Geoengineering Watch website. So if you scroll down just a little bit, over here on the left, you'll see Geoengineering Watch t-shirts, cards, and bumper stickers. And then they also have the flyers. So if you click into any of these here, you can order flyers, booklets, any of that stuff to give out. They even have t-shirts and stickers, things like that, bumper stickers and so forth. So the money goes directly to Mr. Dane. It covers the cost of printing and shipping, and he does them either at cost or below cost, which means he's losing money on them. But that is something that is available should you guys want to raise awareness of what's going on in our skies, and then also promote geoengineeringwatch.org as a source for that information. Note, there is no advertising on the website. There never has been. And it is a non-political website, and Dane always points that out on his broadcasts. No advertising. So you can't say that he's driving traffic to the site for, clickbait, so that people will go there and click into it, and then the site earns money. That's not how it works. You get nothing except information on this site, and it's non-monetized, including his videos on YouTube. They have demonetized his YouTube channel as well. They did that last year sometime. So there is no money to be made on going to the website. It's only strictly informational. So just note that. And if you point people to it, you can feel good about the fact that the information there is solid. And I personally have been involved in working with Mr. Dane on geoengineeringwatch.org since 2014, when I first became aware of what was going on in our skies, and began to become informed about what's going on. And I found out about that through a friend of mine who told me to watch What in the World Are They Spraying? And Why in the World Are They Spraying? And I watched those films, and I remember thinking, okay, that makes sense that they're spraying aluminum and that they're doing those things. But it really wasn't until a few months later when I watched a film called Food Inc., Food Inc., Food Inc., where I learned in that film that there were seeds that were being developed at that time that were aluminum resistant seeds. I'm like, well, wait a minute. If they're developing through a process, if they're developing aluminum resistant seeds, that means they have to resist the aluminum from something, and the only place they would have aluminum would be in the soil, and how's the aluminum get there? So that sort of starts a cycle of thinking of, okay, well, then it's being sprayed from the skies, because aluminum, although it is in nature, it has to be mined and refined to be in the volume that it is in the soils. And so therefore you need an aluminum resistant seed to even be able to grow. So that was the kind of thing that really got my wheels turning and realizing that it was real, that the whole geoengineering thing was real. And so that is when I reached out to Mr. Dane years ago and contacted him and asked him if there was anything I could do to help. And that is, that's where we're at. And that's why I'm still working with him now. So anyway, that is a short little sidebar there, I guess. But yeah, note that this information here is available, and it can be gotten pretty cheaply and given out to people, and all you're doing is covering the cost of printing and having them shipped to you, so you can do that. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know about all that. And Dane did not ask me to say any of this stuff. I'm just bringing it to your attention, so that's all. All right, and then let's see, the engineered weather report for this coming, well, at least the temperatures for this coming next few days, April 12th through the 16th. It's looking like that. It's kind of the hot and cold split, more or less. Eastern side being cooled, and the west, extreme western Midwest, and most of the west actually is above normal. And then you have a little bit of below normal as well. So that's the temps. So we got mostly cool and then a little bit of warmth as well. So depending on where you are, look for that in the next few days, April 12th through the 16th, and we will see what happens. Yeah, worthwhile cause to spread the word on geoengineering, Susan says. Yep, I agree. So, yeah, and Dane does really good work, and he's I mean, I can't really say enough about the guy. I mean, he lives and breathes this stuff, and he's exactly like you would think he is. And he gives it his all. I mean, when he sends me the show to do the final edit on, I do that on Fridays. He sends me that show. I always look to see about what time of night he sent me the file, and it's always like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning my time, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. So that's 2 hours earlier out there. So he is literally doing this until he drops. He really is. So don't think for a second he's getting rich off of this or any of that kind of stuff. He's just making enough money to cover his cost. He's trying to, and that's only on the donations and the money that people pay to get flyers done and T-shirts and stuff like that. So yeah, he's giving it everything he has. So know that he's doing his part for sure. So, and I'm trying to, and I hope you guys are as well. Not just about geoengineering, but in general, there's so much to learn, so much out there that it's impossible to learn it all, to know it all, but it's certainly worth studying. And geoengineering is just one of those things that affects all of us. So, why not give it everything you have? Emily says, Vegas has been experiencing massive weather whiplash in the last few weeks. Super cold and snow drifts to 90 degrees. It's ridiculous, really. Yeah, that is, I'm hearing similar things from California as well. Dane's told me that they've gone from 80s and sun to snow the next day kind of thing. And we mentioned last week, I think it was, where they had 80 degrees in New York City, and then in Boston, which is 180 something miles away, they had snow flurries. So yeah, I mean, this whole thing is really kind of coming undone, as it were, coming off the rails. So I don't know where it's all headed, but we know according to Scripture that the oceans, a third of the oceans will die, and that you could point back to geoengineering for that. and other things that are going on, obviously pollution and other things. And you got Fukushima is still happening, and whatever else that affects the oceans and all life, really. So it's pretty amazing where we're at in this whole process, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better, no matter what we all try and do. All right, now we were on the King Watch a little bit here. I always try and look at the latest videos of what they're saying about Charles, and this first one here, I'll just play it and kind of talk over it. But the royal fans will be happy to hear, I'm not too happy, that Charles will be resuming his official duties. So he's back. He's not in the hospital. He's not on his deathbed or any of that, or at least not according to the official YouTube channel. So there he's out there meeting the little people here in this clip, and I thought this was peculiar, giving CPR to a dummy, which, insert your own joke here, I guess, including investitures on Tuesday and a trip to the Royal Air Force on Thursday. So he's getting around. He doesn't look too sick to me. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. He's officially returned to his duties after his unplanned hospital stay. And this one I thought was weird. A veggie says, "Veggie good, Your Majesty. King Charles plays a carrot at a royal reception." And again, insert your own joke here. He's probably played lots of carrots in his life. I'm just guessing. But they most likely weren't orange, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I thought that was odd. He's obviously feeling well enough to be playing carrots. So, yeah, very strange. Anyway, that's what the king's up to. He's playing carrots. So, very weird, very weird. All right, so let's see here. Diamond Report on X. Got a couple new followers this week. Looking to see if there's anything worth reporting. I posted a couple of video clips from last week's show. I did an excerpt clip of just the story I did on Neom, or Neom, I guess it's pronounced. So we did the Neom video clip, and then I also did the clip of the Ark of the Covenant. So what I'm trying to do each week is put out a few clips, probably not more than 3, honestly. A few clips each week from this show where I can focus on just one little short story of some sort. This week, I don't know what that's going to be yet, but I decide that when I'm editing it on Monday or Tuesday, and then I go in and create some clips and upload those shorter versions of the show, essentially just clips of the show for people to watch, because you have a lot of people who see that the final form of the video might be 2 hours long or almost 3 hours long, and they won't click on it to watch it. So what I'm doing is trying to get, those people who only have a goldfish type of attention span, unlike you all who are still here hours later. It's 1:08 a.m. So it's kind of getting late around here. So anyways, yeah, be sure and follow me on X, and then what else? Subscribestar and Substack. Well, Substack, I'll go over that first. That is the link in the upper right corner up there, diamonddisc.substack.com. That's how you can get on the list where you can receive the weekly emails that I send out. It's 3 a week, and pretty much never any more than that. I send out one on Sunday, one on Monday, and one on Tuesday usually. So if you get more than that, then you can get mad at me. If you sign up for the list and you get those 3 emails, don't get mad at me, because I'm warning you now. I'm warning you now. It is Sunday. You get the email about the live show that night. Again, tonight I kind of had things going early on in the day and forgot to send it, so I send it out at like 9 p.m. So you get the Sunday night or Sunday email that has the information about the live stream happening on Sunday night. Monday, you get the email about the podcast, which is the audio upload of this show tonight. Happens on Monday. Tuesday, you get the main email that has the links to the all the articles and videos and stuff like that I put in a really long email. I go in one at a time and copy and paste for about 3 or 4 hours. No, I'm just joking. It takes a while. But I assemble all that stuff and put it in a one document and blast that out to you guys on Tuesday. So if you do want that information, you can sign up for free here on Substack. And if you want to help support what I'm doing, you can also sign up on Substack to do that. I've got a total of 12 whopping subscribers on Substack. So thank you guys for paying a little bit each month and helping out the Diamond Report. And I think we've got, I don't know, close to 275 actual subscribers, I think, on Substack who get it for free. So you have 12 that pay and about 250 plus that are just on the free version of it, which is totally fine. So we've got some people that are interested in the show. I think that's good news. And then, let me see. The other thing that I just mentioned is Subscribestar. And we've got 6 subscribers on here who are paying various amounts starting at $5 per month. And that is a very welcome thing. So thank you guys for supporting the Diamond Report very much. It really is very helpful for me. So we have a new segment that we introduced last week, and we'll close the show with that. It is my good friend Lindley Oz, and we have another scripture study that's pretty short, just a few minutes long, and we'll close with that because we're kind of running long tonight again. It's called Use the Name of Jesus and Get Results. We've been taught completely wrong. So this is Lindley Oz. We've got a new section here that we're doing on, a new segment that we're doing here on the Diamond Report. And the reason I'm doing this is because, number one, she's my friend and has a really good YouTube channel. So go subscribe to her if you're not already. And then number two, and more importantly, because two is bigger than one, is that it's about Jesus, and we want to add, I want to try and add more scripture into these live streams that we do. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I really wanted to bring more scripture in, and for people who need that and want that, I think it helps give people a few minutes there with scripture that maybe they don't have time for during the week or not making time for during the week. I'm guilty of that myself. I know many of you guys are as well. You just get busy and you forget, and then you do other stuff, and you're going in 100 different ways every day. So it's easy to do. So I was trying to introduce a little bit more scripture into these live streams so that we have something else, someone else giving that information that we can then take to the Lord in prayer, which is the whole purpose of this channel. Take it to the Lord in prayer. And I hope you guys have a blessed week this week. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. We have much to talk about yet again. I didn't go over the various websites, but you guys know where those are, where you can find my work on Rumble and BitChute and all of those places. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I hope you have a sensational week this week. But, if something bad happens next week, just know that or I should say, if something bad happens tomorrow, just know that, the Lord is in control of all of this. So he is in control. He's front and center. He's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. We know that he's already seen it all happen. He's already seen it all unfold. He knows how it's going to happen. We don't, but we don't need to because he knows. So blessings, you guys, and I hope you guys have a really good week. We'll meet back up again next week, which will be April the 13th. So, yeah, April the 13th already. So that's when we'll see you guys again. It will be, again, like usual, 10 p.m. Central Time is when we'll start. So we'll see you guys then, and much love to everyone, as Emily's saying here in chat. God bless all you amazing people. Hope you all have a safe and blessed week. Much love to everyone. Hope to see you all next week. Those are words from Miss Emily. So yes, thank you very much, and thank you, Emily, for being here and for helping me doing what you do and putting those links in chat every week without fail, and even when you're on the road. So thank you for being here and helping out. I really appreciate it. And we'll take a look at this last video here in the name. It's called Use the Name of Jesus and Get Results. We've been taught completely wrong. All right, you guys. Have a blessed one. We'll see you guys again real soon.
Hi, it's Lindley Oz, and it's time for your biblical word for the day. And did you know that there are words in the Bible that are one word in English, But in the Bible, it may be the same word in English, but it's a different word in Hebrew. That's right, a different word in Hebrew. That's why it's important, even if we think we know what a word means, to look at the meaning. Even if you saw the word, earlier the same day in your study, it's important to look at it again in a different verse because it may be the same word in English, but something else in Hebrew. So today's word is slain. And I actually have 3 different verses that have the word slain in it, but in Hebrew, it's a different word with a different definition. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. Leviticus 4:15. Then the elders of the congregation shall lay their hands on the head of the bull before the Lord, and the bull shall be slain before the Lord. That is Strong's number H7819. It says, to slaughter in a sacrifice or massacre, to kill, offer, shoot out, slay, and slaughter. And to beat. It says to slaughter of a beast for food, sacrifice, person, and human sacrifice, beaten, hammered of shekels, and to be slaughtered, to be slain of food or sacrifice. So there we have slain in Leviticus chapter 4, verse 15. But then we can see here in Numbers 25, verse 18, it says, for they have been hostile to you with their tricks, which they have deceived you in the affair of Peor, and in the affair of Cosbi, the daughter of the leader of Midian, their sister who was slain on the day of the plague because of Peor. Slain here is Strong's number H5221, and it means to strike lightly or severely, literally or figuratively, beat, cast forth, clap, give wounds, go forward, indeed, kill, make slaughter, murder, punish, slaughtering, smite, smiting, strike, stricken, give stripes, surely wound. So then you can see a repeat of a lot of those words down here: to be stricken or smitten, to scourge, clap, applaud, give a thrust, kill, slay of man or beast, to attack and destroy, conquer, subjugate, ravage, chastise, send judgment upon, punish, destroy, receive a blow, be wounded, beaten, smitten, killed, slain, attacked, and captured, and to be blighted. So there you have slain, H5221. So now let's look at slain in Deuteronomy 32, verse 42. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword will devour flesh. With the blood of the slain and the captives, from the long-haired leaders of the enemy. Let's look at slain here. Strong's H2491. It says from H2490. We'll look at that too. Pierced, especially to death. Figuratively, polluted. Kill, profane. Slain, man, slew, deadly, wounded. You can see all of that here. Pierced, fatally wounded. Pierced, slain, profane, defiled, and profaned by divorce. Strong's H2490. This is the root. A whole lot of stuff here. We won't read all of it, but you can see it on the screen. Let's go down here. It even says profane, self, prostitute, slay, slain, sorrow, stain, wound. It says to profane, defile, pollute, desecrate, begin, to profane oneself, defile oneself, pollute oneself, ritually, sexually, to be polluted, be defiled. To profane, make common, defile, pollute, violate the honor of, dishonor, to violate a covenant. So when we violate our covenant with the Lord by returning to the ways of the flesh, we are profaning our temple. To treat as common, to profane the name of God, to let be profane, to begin, to begun, to pierce, to be slain, to wound, to play the flute or pipe. Okay, there you have the word slain here. Now that's also the same definition of the word slain in Ezekiel 28 verse 8, where it says, they will bring you down to the pit and you will die the death of those who are slain in the heart of the seas. So now just for fun, let's look at Mark chapter 7, beginning with verse 14, because this verse is not really at all about food. This is Jesus talking. After he called the crowd to him again, he began saying to them, listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside the man which can defile him if it goes into him, but the things which proceed out of the man are what defile the man. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear. When he had left the crowd and entered the house, his disciples questioned him about the parable. He said to them, "Are you so lacking in understanding also? Do you not understand that whatever goes into the man from outside cannot defile him, because it does not go into his heart, but into his stomach and is eliminated?" Now, this here, it says, "Thus he declared all foods clean." That was added in. That has been added in. That's why it's in italics, where it says thus and in parentheses. Okay, it kind of confuses you. It makes you start thinking about food. Then it goes on to say, "And he was saying, that which proceeds out of the man, that is what defiles the man. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed the evil thoughts, fornications, thefts, murders, adulteries, deeds of coveting, and wickedness, as well as deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these evil things proceed from within and defile the man." What does defile mean? Profane. Profane, to defile, pollute, unclean. To declare or count unclean is rooted in a Greek word that means to profane. To profane. Now remember what Jesus just said, right? He said nothing that goes into the body, but it's what comes forth from the heart, right? Well, what about this verse here? Revelation 13:16. It says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads." So what's up with that? In their right hand or in their foreheads? But Jesus just said that, "Listen to me, all of you, and understand there is nothing outside the man which can defile him if it goes into him, but the things which proceed out of the man are what defile him." And he talks about wickedness, coveting, slander, pride, foolishness, sensuality, deceit, envy, adultery, murder, thefts, fornications. That's what he has told us. But yet the end is all about profaning the temple. So what does that mean? Does that mean Jesus was wrong about what he told us? No. It means our interpretation is wrong, because the book of Revelation is not literal. And when John the Revelator was talking about the mark of the beast, it's all about the heart, my friends. The heart. It's not about something that goes into your body or on your body. It is about the condition of the heart. It's about God's people rejecting the real Jesus of the Bible, making Satan appearing as an angel of light, the head of the church, about the destruction of the church, the body of Christ, the people in their hearts, believing the lies, living in the flesh, therefore profaning, defiling, desecrating their temple, which is your heart. That's what it's all about. Think about this. We all have always understood that if we don't confess Jesus as our Savior and repent, then we are not saved. Like if we die, we'll go to hell without confessing Jesus as our Savior. We all understand also that the beast kingdom and wild beast of the earth and Gentile is referring to the unsaved condition, unclean, profane, unsaved. We also understand that man was originally created in the image of God, but after the fall, they were no longer in the image of God. They were in the image of the beast kingdom. Thus as to why we have to have the Holy Spirit, which is the seal of salvation, who covers and hides our sins from God, our sin nature, so that we can approach the throne of God. You follow? When we take the name of the Lord in vain, and what that actually means, you can go look up the words. I just did a video on this. It means making a false covenant, a false vow, returning to the ways of the flesh, returning to the ways of the flesh after we have confessed Jesus. That's taking his name in vain, meaningless, empty, false vow. Jesus talks about those types of things in Matthew 13 when it talks about the seeds and the birds. When we break our covenant, we just saw that slain, one of the words for slain, the definition was to break our covenant, break our oath, desecrate, profane. That's exactly what we're doing, and that's what the end is really about. This is why it is so important to get all of our meanings to everything, from the meanings of the words and strictly from the Bible, to cross-reference and study. If you hardcore study the Bible from start to finish and study the words, you will find that there is no literal mark of the beast as it has been taught to us. The mark of the beast is a spiritual thing. Look up the words, study it for yourself, study to show yourself approved. If this message blessed you and you learned something from it, please consider sending a gift to help support what I'm doing. You can do so via my PayPal or my P.O. Box. The information is on the screen and beneath the video. Also, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.